All right. Looks like we're ready.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order and first establish that we have a quorum. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir. Hold on. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members.
Okay. First item is the consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote.
Travis, I would like to recuse. I'd like to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay. So Terry's going to recuse herself. We're going to have 5 votes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye by show of hands. Opposed?
So 5-0.
5-0. Okay. Regular agenda. Subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. A, Old Stone Ranch, Section 2. A request for approval of a final plat for Old Stone Ranch, Section 2, being 7.584 acres located generally located south of West Loop 306 along Old Stone Drive.
Good morning, Planning Commissioner. Sherry Bailey, Principal Planners. Just one moment and I'll share my screen. As you indicated, this is the final plat for Old Stone Ranch Section 2. The zoning for this section is, you'll remember, RS1, similar to what is above it and what was in Section 1. The future land use on this is neighborhood. It's in District 1, Mr. Hubert's district, and it's in the Country Club neighborhood. There are 12 new lots that are being proposed. Old Stone Drive, which is this section of Old Stone Drive. They are half-acre lots, and there are no variances being requested. The only discussion item that staff is aware of is the fact that what is being proposed is Old Stone Drive ending in a hammerhead. In looking at the rationale for approval, the neighborhood designated in the comprehensive plan supports the single-family RS1 zoning, which is proposed. The conformity with the intent and purpose statements, this provides the orderly, safe, and efficient development within the city. It also provides streets that ensure safe, convenient, and functional systems, and drainage access and utility easements are being provided. Staff is recommending approval of Old Stone Ranch Section 2 with 8 conditions of approval. The first one, copy of the tax certification. 2 is submit plans and construction improvements for Crystal Point Drive, or submit a financial guarantee or obtain a variance. Number 3 is to revise the plat to show the 60-foot right-of-way for Crystal Point for the entire length of the property. It is a collector. Submit plans and install water main and water sewer lines to each of the new lots. Submit the site plan with existing water source to the Tom Green County Environmental Health for the septic systems. Submit plans and construct improvements for Old Stone Drive, and submit a financial guarantee to obtain the variances. Enter into a development agreement, and staff is working on that at the present time, for a fire hydrant to be placed at the end of the water line, for water line looping and the timeline associated with that, and to specify the financial guarantee. And number 8 is the fire hydrant to be placed within 600 feet to the rear of all of the homes. With that, are there any questions from Planning Commission?
Do we have questions for the staff? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Russell with SKG Engineering. We would ask your approval of this item and of the plat as presented. We've kind of specifically drawn the plat this way with Crystal Point Drive kind of being the hammerhead for Old Stone and not taking it all the way to the east and west boundaries of this property, kind of intentionally. The developer, I guess this will ultimately turn into a 3-section development, with the 3rd section being the completion of Crystal Point Drive to the east and west, and then also the lots that would front onto Crystal Point that would be on the south side of Crystal Point. So, staff would want us to push and develop Crystal Point to the end. The developer really preference would be to develop this lot and land as we presented it. If not, we had one earlier conversation with staff about flexibility, and staff had talked about with each of the lot 15 being there, that if we didn't plat each of the lot 15s and we did a temporary turnaround, if you will, at the end of Old Stone, that would be perfectly, I guess that would be a way to do it as well. We just wanted to kind of just get to the end, do the hammerhead as a street construction that meets the intent of the fire code. And that would just make for a better project and not have one of these temporary cul-de-sacs that then get kind of wiped out or taken out and extended whenever the rest of that section or section 3 would come into play. So we would ask that the plat be approved as presented, with this configuration, with the understanding that we did a preliminary plat. The developer understands that when they come in and do section 3, that they will be responsible for building the full width of Crystal Point to the east and to the west of the intersection with Old Stone. And then on the developer's agreement, I think Ms. Bailey had referenced the financial guarantee. I don't know if that's kind of just some loose generic verbiage, but I guess that's my understanding. That was the point of a developer's agreement, is that you post a financial guarantee or you do a developer's agreement. So I didn't know that there would be a developer's agreement and financial guarantee. So if it's just generic verbiage that allows us and staff and engineering to work through the developer's agreement, that's great. If we do decide that there needs to be some financial guarantee, okay, we just want to make sure there's the flexibility that we're not that it's not being read into the record that there has to be a financial guarantee as part of this, that it's kind of based on what staff and engineering and the developer can all come to terms on.
Okay. Could someone on the staff speak to Russell's question about the financial guarantee, please?
Yes, Russell, you're correct. It is a generic term because we're going to be negotiating that inclusion in the development agreement. And one of the other factors, and I don't have it listed on here, was whether or not we did a separate development agreement or just amended the existing one. And that's something that needs to be discussed also.
Well, and I hope that, I'm sorry, is Mitchell on here? I was hoping that Mitchell could speak to the right-of-way on Crystal Point.
Yes, ma'am. So the reason it's a requirement actually in Chapter 9 in the subdivision ordinance too, when you are adjacent to a a master thoroughfare plan roadway like Crystal Point is being a collector. If you're platting adjacent to that, the developer is responsible for dedicating the incremental half of that right of way. And so in this instance, it was a requirement that comes directly from the ordinance.
So what we're saying, y'all, just so that everybody kind of gets a better understanding, is if lots 15, the two lot 15s were not there, there would be no trigger to require their half of the right of way or the pavement width for Crystal Point, because
Right.
they've chosen to put the two lot 15s in there and not do the right of way. They could come back when they do the bottom lots and say, that's not our obligation. We're not platting those lots. Now, again, I think the developer understands what he wants to do in the end, but it's risky to allow those lots to be platted and not plat the adjacent right of way with this specific plat. So that's what we're at least trying to present to you guys is we think that if they're platting adjacent, the right of way should be put in so that we don't have a problem down the road with not having that right of way as it is today.
And we had offered to, because we're doing a developer's agreement, we had offered, because the developer's agreement runs with the land, we had offered to stipulate and include in that developer's agreement that the developer recognizes, is responsible for the right-of-way dedication, the roadway construction to the full width, such that it's kind of like the water looping. It's all recognized. You know, if y'all have seen the land to the east has recently been cleared. That's under contract to sell. The buyer of that is talking to this developer and other developers, or maybe even developed itself, that they may come in and kind of, they're looking at doing something similar to Old Stone, just immediately east of this, that could all loop in together in the future. So that would be a great way to create that water loop, create even the loop of the roadways in there. You know, so there's so many moving obstacles or opportunities with this that this just kind of, yes, we recognize they're getting 2 additional lots in it, but we believe it just kind of created a better turnaround, a better finish. So, you know, we would like the opportunity to do it as we presented it, include that in the developer's agreement. You know, we'd like at least to maybe take a swing at it, if you will, that way with the planning commission, see if we could get a positive vote for that. And then if not that, then the opportunity to just effectively take off 2 lot 15s and put a temporary cul-de-sac at the end of Old Stone.
I'm assuming if the staff's recommending approval that the fire marshal, the fire department has signed off on this hammerhead plat as it's been laid out. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I believe the fire marshal is on as well if he has any additional comments. Mitchell, have y'all discussed the option of a developer's agreement for the remaining Crystal Point?
We have, and Public Works was hesitant to accept a developer's agreement just in the case of right-of-way dedication and paving with no financial guarantee or no financial backing, such as a bond, cash, letter of credit. Normally stuff we would see on a performance agreement. We were hesitant to accept it in this instance.
And I guess
this is Shane Kelly, operations for the city. Another issue that I have here is I don't want to end up with another Twin Mountain Drive to where we have a section that has been left out for years and years and years, and it's just a little bump out actually starts causing safety issues in the roadway and concerns. And so that's why I had to go in there and actually temporary construct a portion of Twin Mountain Drive, is to clean up some of the safety issues that are involved. Not again, and it all depends on how soon things develop along Crystal Point Drive. But if this is not dedicated and that half's not dedicated, you could end up with 2 chunks, Crystal Point coming together with basically 2 chunks out of it. So again, just another situation where we don't want to end up in something like where Twin Mountain was for years out there.
Okay.
So Russell, I'm sure the right-of-way dedication is not as big a deal as the paving and the construction of the street. Would they be willing to just dedicate the right-of-way and then put up some sort of financial guarantee that would give them, Mitchell, if I'm correct, that would give them 3 years to come up with a possible solution before they'd have to pave it?
I'll have to go back to them and ask that. I don't know. I think their preference would just be to back up then and only do it back at, go to the lot 14.
I was going to say, wouldn't the alternative be to just plat through 14 and leave 15 off?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So Russell, do you want us to table this while you guys decide what to do, or how do you want to proceed here?
I'm not sure. Hillary, I'm not sure we can table a plat because of that 30-day requirement in the.
Yeah, but here's the, just so that everybody knows, if we approve this plat as it is today, it's going to require they dedicate the incremental half of the right of way and they construct Crystal Point or get a financial guarantee. So if this is approved today, they have the option to do those things. If they so choose, they do not have to file this plat. They could come back with a separate plat that has just the up to 14 and do that. So I don't think we are obligating them to construct it tomorrow. We are just giving them the option. If you want to plat to 15, here you have to dedicate the right of way and improve half of Crystal Point or submit a financial guarantee. So I think this is a good option. This gives Russell direction to go back to his client and ask those questions. And then possibly if they want to scale it back to 14, they could. The 14s, they could.
So maybe I'm confused. So Hillary, y'all are saying for Crystal Point, we need to dedicate half of the right of way and build half of Crystal Point.
Mitchell, or provide a financial guarantee.
Mitchell, I'd like for you to clarify that. I mean, that's usually the normal, but I may be misspeaking. So I'd like for Mitchell to clarify that.
Yeah. Yes. From what I've seen and from what I've understood in the ordinance is since they're only platting lots 15 adjacent to Crystal Point and they're not platting that southern property, the incremental half is what's required.
Okay.
Okay. And if that's the route, I would probably want to just say, yeah, the developer would be willing to do their half up against 15 so they can have 15. And then they'll either, I guess, build the half of up against 15 or post a financial guarantee. But at a minimum, we want to do the full hammerhead for the turnaround. We think that's just the best way to do it all together. So yeah, I think if it's just an incremental half up against 15, then I believe I can make them see and understand the benefit of doing it that way.
Okay. So we're all in agreement. All right. Does anyone have any more questions for Russell, or is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this case?
I do have a quick question on the fire hydrants. Is that typical that every lot has a fire hydrant? Did I read that correctly when we had the slides up?
I think it's got to be within 600 feet of the back of the lot. Is that right?
Yeah, so they can lay them out. Yeah, they can lay them out as they see fit. They just need to ensure that the back of every structure, there's a fire hydrant within 600 feet.
So it's not one for every lot.
Got it. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Does anyone wish to make a motion or have other questions that they'd like to address before we move forward?
I'll make a motion to accept as discussed.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the staff. All in favor, say aye by show of hands. Opposed? Can someone tell me what the vote was?
I'm sorry, somebody had stepped in my office. Can you raise your hand one more time if you were
Okay,
approved?
so all in favor, show of hands.
Okay, so that is six.
Right.
It would be 6-0. Yes, sir,
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
No problem. Next item, Bentwood Country Club Estates, Section 44, request for approval of the final plat of Bentwood Country Club Estates, Section 44, being 8.051 acres located east of Clubhouse Lane and Enclave Court.
Good morning, Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. Can everybody see my screen okay?
No, we see you, Jeff.
Yeah, we don't see your screen
All
yet.
right,
You gotta
let me
push-
share that.
Now we see it.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Thank y'all. All right. So we're going to combine these two plats together, Bentwood Country Club Estate Section 44 and 45, since they're adjacent to each other. So we'll do one presentation and you can all do two motions
Jeff,
at the end.
before you do that, I'm going to read 45 in. Bentwood
Yes,
Country
sir.
Club Estates, Section 45, request for approval of the final plat of Bentwood Country Club Estates, Section 45, being 9.595 acres located northeast of Clubhouse Lane and Enclave Court.
Okay. So these are the two final plats, as you can see in the red. This is Section 44, which is going to be an extension of Clubhouse Lane, and then 45, which has a street here called Riviera Lane, a new street that will go up here to Linville. So this is an extension of all of the previous phases of Bentwood Country Club Estates. This is also RS1 zone property that's going to second reading at council. This was part of the annexation item and this rezoning that y'all looked at last month. So the zoning will be RS1 by tomorrow if everything goes well, and the future land use is neighborhood. District 1, Tommy Hebert Country Club. So this was the approved preliminary plat back in October. And then the areas we're talking about today, the two final plats were the RS1 zoned and the areas to be annexed. So somewhere down the road, this area down here will also be annexed, the remaining 49 acres, but not yet. So 44 is 8.051, 33 single family lots, and should be 45, 9.595 acres. We are requesting sidewalks along Clubhouse Lane. We'll go over that in a few minutes. And again, we've talked about this as part of the annexed area. So these are some of the pictures that we've already shared in the previous cases. So I'll go over this quickly. The governing preliminary plat you all approved in October. The two final plats are the same lot size, is identical with the preliminary plat, so it conforms. The neighborhood policies support a diversity and mix of housing choices. These lots will range from 7,200 to 14,300 in that ballpark. So the lower end, some of the lots, that'll provide some options there, and then some of the larger lots as you go east. The new streets will meet the minimum construction standards. Clubhouse, as mentioned, is a collector, so that'll have a 50-foot paving width and a 60-foot right-of-way, and the other local streets will be 40 feet with a 50-foot right-of-way. We've talked about this before as well with the preliminary plat. There could be a potential future amenity area here. So there's several reasons why we would want the sidewalks. And again, this is just about 300 feet. So the dark red straight line is what's part of this plat. And then the dotted lines could be the future sidewalk extensions in the future. This could be an amenity area down here and just with more homes and people walking. So we believe that with collector streets, having sidewalks is a good idea and will provide more pedestrian connectivity through the area. We've done this in previous plats. It also encourages more sidewalks in these dotted areas or in other places in the neighborhood. So staff recommends approval of Bentwood Country Club Estates Section 44, subject to 9 conditions of approval, and approval of Bentwood Country Club Estates Section 45, subject to 8 conditions of approval. I'll go over these quickly. 44, tax certificate, tame signatures of the preliminary plat. Some of those lettered lots on there were incorrect. And so just basically some of the areas in the back that look like alleys might be used also as drainage features. So just label those. The drainage study is required. Install water mains, sewer mains, and prepare and submit plats for approval for Clubhouse Lane or variance. Prepare and submit plans for Riviera Lane or variance, and install the fire hydrants. A couple notes, we mentioned about the sidewalks on both sides of Clubhouse and the annexation and rezoning, which are going to second reading tomorrow. And then for 45, it's mostly the same, except that those are not collector streets, so we're not asking for sidewalks there. So it'll just be the 8 conditions: tax certificate, signatures of preliminary plat, drainage study, water and sewer mains, provide and submit plans for Linville Lane, Riviera Lane, and fire hydrants. So that concludes staff's presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and if there's any questions or comments, please go ahead.
Anyone have questions for the staff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please state your name.
Hey, good morning, Russell with SKG. We're not in opposition to really any of the conditions of approval, with the exception of the sidewalks on 2 sides of Clubhouse Lane. You know, the sidewalk issue has been evolving. You know, we've been there, and we don't have sidewalks in Bentwood now. With some of these last plats, we do have a sidewalk coming down one side of Wolf Creek. You know, we've kind of settled to that. You know, Bentwood is a golf course community. They're primarily the mode of transportation. Yeah, there is some walking, but a lot of people use golf carts. And if you look back at the preliminary plat, between almost kind of in the back of the lots, as Jeff alluded to, those areas are going to kind of double, or, you know, be a multi-use area that could be trails, drainage, and even golf cart, walking, hiking, bicycle paths. So, you know, and they'll be used to move people, you know, from the lots to the golf club, to the amenity area, to even maybe the main clubhouse. So, you know, we feel like Bentwood is kind of doing their effort to create this environment for the golfers, for pedestrians, for hikers, for everybody. And we believe that the 2 sidewalks on Clubhouse may be kind of an overstep of more than what would be needed there. You know, we're not opposed to 1 sidewalk on one side of Clubhouse. You know, potentially that could continue and tie back into the west to the existing clubhouse. But, you know, there's really not an opportunity for staff that said, hey, Bentwood, let's come to the table and let's talk about this. It was kind of a city decided they want sidewalks on 2 sides of the street without really that conversation. It's easy for them to spend the developer's money without having the conversation. And so, you know, Bentwood's willing to do the sidewalk on 1 side, but we think 2 sides is really an overstep.
Okay. Thank you, Russell.
This is Kevin Collins I'm the Bentwood developer. And yeah, I just want to echo what Russell was saying. We know that going forward with our plans, that this is going to be just a totally residential area. Clubhouse Lane doesn't have sidewalks anywhere else, but we in our last plat, we agreed that, yeah, having sidewalks is important. So we understand that. We just think that both sides of Clubhouse Lane is just overstretching. And also at the same time, at the last planning meeting when we spoke, we talked about it being one sidewalk, and then now we get here and it was kind of last minute. Now we have to have 2 sidewalks. So we just feel like we already build the streets oversized. I know Clubhouse is a collector, but I think that given the fact that it is planned for just strictly residential, there's not going to be like any kind of commercial use on that street anytime soon. And it just kind of, you know, again, looks a little bit you go along and there's no sidewalk and then all of a sudden there's two. So we were just hoping that we could get a variance to get it to just one sidewalk as opposed to two.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this case?
Just something to add for Kevin's comment too. This would not be a variance. It would just be, you would just put it in your motion that it would be a sidewalk on one side. And the reason is that it's not a Chapter 10 standard sidewalk that would be required. This is something that staff is requesting given the area and that it's a collector street. So it would just be in the motion, but it wouldn't be a variance.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. I'm going to open it up for discussion and a motion. The argument for one sidewalk seems compelling to me. It's certainly better than none, and two might seem excessive considering that there aren't a lot of sidewalks in Bentwood otherwise. But
and if y'all had to choose, because I think staff's, and Hillary, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were looking at the south side of the street because that's where that future amenity area would go. So that would probably be the practical choice if we had to choose one.
Okay.
South side, Jeff?
On the south side, correct.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve section 44 and section 45, amending the sidewalks to be only on the south side of the street for section 44.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve as presented, with the exception that we put one sidewalk on Clubhouse Lane on the south side of the street. All in favor, say aye by show of hands. And opposed?
6-0.
6-0. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Revised preliminary portion, Southland Hills Edition. A request for approval of a revised portion of the preliminary plat for Southland Hills Edition being 81.994 acres located west of College Hills Boulevard and Valleyview Boulevard.
Bear with me one moment. I'm going to share my screen again.
So there's pluses and minuses to having multiple screens. There it is.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so next case, and again, we're going to combine them, y'all. So this is a revised preliminary plat and a final plat for Southland Hills Edition, section 22. So the preliminary plat and the final are both for the same area. It's 199.
Jeff, hold on. Travis, did you read the preliminary and the final?
Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I did.
I'm so sorry. I didn't want to interrupt.
Yes,
okay.
Southland Hills Edition, section 22, a request for approval of a final plat, Southland Hills Edition, section 22, being 81.994 acres located east of Stone Canyon Trail and Valleyview Boulevard, and a variance from chapter 10.3A.1 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a right-of-way of 50 feet in lieu of the required 60 feet. And a variance from chapter 10.3A.2 to maintain a paving width of 40 feet in lieu of the required 50 feet for the portion of Stone Canyon Trail that is an urban collector street between the northwest corner of the property and Valleyview Boulevard. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Stripling. Okay, so the final and the preliminary and the final are both for 199 new residential lots. It's a large area. 81.994 acres. The northerly 23 lots, which is basically up in this area here, north of Valley View, those are RS1 lots. So those will be single family. And as I understand from the applicant, if you go south of here, this is RM1. So this could allow a multitude of uses, but they are proposed as 0 lot line homes, and that's 176 lots. This is District 1, Tommy Hebert in the Bonham neighborhood. So there's the plat that was in your staff reports, as you can see. So these are the RS1 lots up here, and then these are the 0 lot line RM1 lots here. All of these lots have a 4-foot access easement. That just basically allows, if somebody needs to do any repairs, they can encroach, and that meets the zoning ordinance. A couple of variances they requested. There's a small piece of Stone Canyon here that is shown as a collector street, even though it serves and always has served as a local road. So they have requested a variance basically to allow this to remain at the local street construction standard from here to here. So it'll be a right-of-way variance to maintain 50 feet and a paving variance to maintain 40 feet. The city is requesting 80 feet right-of-way on Valleyview Boulevard in here, and I'll explain that more in a minute. These are some of the pictures of the area. There will be an associated right-of-way abandonment case for this corner over here of Valleyview and Southwest we'll discuss later today. And that's basically to acquire the additional land to reduce the right-of-way to 60 feet, as there's that one small corner that's 80 feet right now. So this is Stone Canyon Trail, and this is looking at Valleyview. So it conforms this new section of the preliminary plat. They amended the old preliminary plat. There was originally, basically there's a slightly smaller lot. So originally I counted 144 lots. These will be 199 lots with a little bit narrower lot widths of 50 to 55. The new preliminary plat and the final will conform with that. The plats conform with the neighborhood policies to support a mix of housing choices, and the new street right-of-ways and paving will comply with the construction standards. There's a lot of internal streets. Obviously, this is a very big plat, but all the street standards will comply, and that with that exception of the variance. So let's look at the 80-foot right-of-way first on Valleyview and why that's being required. You may have noticed in your staff report that is designated in our thoroughfare plan as a collector street. So technically it only needs 60. However, it's 80 feet to the west and 80 feet to the east. And I believe it's paved on one side to 80 feet already. So we are not asking for more paving. We're just asking for the additional right-of-way. And that is something that collectively we had discussed with operations and engineering, and basically this would help operations for further maintenance of that right-of-way if they ever need to get in there. And also if the city, down the road, again, not the developer, but if we ever need to widen that street in the future, we'd be able to do that. So there is a section in chapter 10.3 of the subdivision ordinance that even if it's designated as a collector, that gives us the authority in those cases. And again, that's up to y'all. Secondly, on the sidewalks on Valleyview, similar to the previous case, we believe that that's a collector street. This is a really large subdivision, so you're looking at 199 lots. So having some sidewalks there would allow more pedestrian connectivity in the area. And again, our standard policy is to have them on both sides. When you hit College Hills to the east, the subdivision plat boundary is only on the south end as you go east of College Hills. So it's on both sides of Valleyview, and then east of College Hills, just on the south side, the portion that's abutting the plat. We're definitely in support of the variance on Stone Canyon Trail. I went back over and I looked at previous phases of all the subdivisions going back to 1978 and onward. It was constructed as a local road. The thoroughfare plan came in years later and I guess wanted it to be a collector, but that area really serves as a local, and it would require them to rip up the curb and gutter. So we are in support of the variance for Stone Canyon for that piece to stay at 50 feet. And that makes sense because as it stops, as you go further down in the subdivision, it stays as a local road. It's only that one section that was a collector. So we're in support of that variance. Staff recommends approval of the revised preliminary portion, Southland Hills Edition, subject to 3 conditions of approval. Approval of Southland Hills Edition Section 22, that's the final plat. Approval of a variance to maintain 50 feet right-of-way for Stone Canyon, 40 feet of paving width for Stone Canyon, subject to 19 conditions of approval. I'll go over these as quick as I can. Preliminary plat, revise the plat name. That's just to be consistent with the original approved plat and to show some differentiation. Again, minor thing, we can work with the applicant. Revise the plat for 80 feet of right of way on Valleyview Boulevard. Again, that's if you all want to support that decision or not, and install fire hydrants. And then the final plat, tax certificate, obtain the signatures on the preliminary plat first, which they'll do, obtain approval of a right of way abandonment. And that's, again, the plat was based on a 60-foot right of way. So if we change that, then that condition might change. Revise the plat with the 80-foot right of way, a drainage study, water and sewer mains, an evaluation of a lift station. Engineering can comment more on that if needed. And then prepare and submit plans for all of the streets. So I'm not going to go over all of these conditions. Just know that with the exception of Valleyview and that portion of Stone Canyon, all of them are going to be local streets. So that's the same thing. They're going to construct them at, I'm assuming, at 40 feet and not going to require a variance on those. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and that concludes our presentation.
Anyone have questions for the staff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
This is Erica Carter with Carter Centris Engineering. I have Blake Whitley here and Lance Lacey. We have no issue with what was presented other than the 80 feet of right-of-way in lieu of the 60 feet. So I'm going to kind of let Blake and Lance take over and kind of give their spiel. Blake? Are you there? Blake?
I see Blake's name, Erica, but did Blake have a phone number as well? Was he calling in like you did?
I don't know. Lance, are you there? Oh, good grief.
I'm
there's-
just unmuted.
Okay.
Lance, why don't you go while I try to get a hold of Blake?
All right, be happy to. Thank y'all for allowing me to speak to you this morning. I know your time's precious, and this is a different way of doing things, and we're all adapting to it, I'm sure. Just a little bit of introduction. I am a member of Southland Hills, Inc., which is the owner of the east side of Valleyview Boulevard, the 23 lots that were discussed. And then as well, I have visited with Mr. Freeman Pickett, and so we're in unison on our approach on this. So to give you a little bit of history, back in 1998, I was under the understanding that this had been downgraded to a collector street. And in fact, you'll notice that the curb line is already poured for that smaller street. And then towards the end of this process of platting came the requirement that they would like to have an 80-foot right-of-way that would extend down Valleyview Boulevard. And so in that regard, I have a few comments along those lines, and that number one, I thought that it was already attended to. With it not being, I guess the first question is, well, why would it matter? And so I'll give you a couple of instances, but really deals with market value of, do you want a 4-lane street or the possibility of a 4-lane street out in front of your house? And I'm sure the answer to that is probably no, as none of us would desire that. Number two, when Valleyview was blocked off at Southwest Boulevard, it was originally scheduled to go all the way to Highway 67. It, in about that 1998 timeframe, was stopped at Southwest Boulevard. And so it was no longer going to be a thoroughfare, a loop outside the loop, so to speak, or an arterial in other words. And so that was the reasoning for the downgrading of that street to a collector street versus an arterial street back in 1998. And I think it was good reasoning in that respect. The people who currently live on Valleyview sighed a breath of relief, and that wide street out in front of their house wouldn't become a speedway into the future. So why does it matter? Well, that speedway obviously affects market value of every home that's built on Valleyview. And certainly when a builder is looking at building homes, they'll look at the width of that right of way and say, we have to assume that that will be used someday Buyers will probably recognize that, and we will not be able to sell our product at a profit, which means those lots will sit there for an extended period of time, and probably not feasible to put in at this time if we do that. I would also add, just to the south of this, about 1/3 of a mile, is Twin Mountain Lane, which is already an arterial street. And so you've got those 4 to 5 lanes over on Twin Mountain Drive, just 1/3 of a mile to the south of us. And so what's between us and that would be Lamar School, the railroad tracks, and the housing that you've seen on this plat. And so I would maintain that this might be overdoing it a little bit to ever have this as a arterial street versus the feeder street. And then last but not least, the rationale that I've heard is because Valleyview has 80 feet on either side of this development currently. And I would just say that as a precedent, when a street's been downgraded, as Valleyview has, and I need to go no further than the other side of Valleyview across Knickerbocker Road, and there's a wide street that necks all the way down to a 50-foot right of way as Valleyview goes through Bentwood. And so it's not unprecedented, certainly, that as the street becomes lesser used, lesser needed, that it not become a thoroughfare and harm other people's property values in doing so. And with that, I'll rest. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Blake, can you?
All right, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. As Lance was saying, Valleyview was long considered an arterial street, and like you said, it was eventually going to go to 67. So let me just take you back a little bit. Back in '95, when Section 9 of Southland Hills was approved, that makes the current intersection of College Hills and Valleyview Boulevard, it showed a 80-foot right of way, and that's something we see today. So everything was good on that side. But then sometime between 99 and 95, that thoroughfare plan changed, and as Lance said, it reduced Valleyview from a arterial to a collector street. And so when Section 8 of Southland Hills came through, a preliminary plat accompanied that, showing the right-of-way width for the north part of Valleyview being reduced down to 60 foot. It was approved by the Planning Commission, went through City Council, was accepted. And so, there's that precedent set that the city has already accepted this being 60-foot right-of-way. And, we're just looking for you to continue the precedence of, accepting this to be a 60-foot right-of-way. I mean, I know that the land subdivision ordinance gives, instances where you can do that. And it says the following minimum widths may be increased or modified when necessary for proper drainage, traffic flow, and/or pedestrian movement, or to ensure consistent street alignment with a minimum desirable curvature. Those are, it says, the 3 instances where you can. And at this point, I don't think any of those are met to be able to extend the right-of-way to 80 feet. So that's what we have. I mean, we've also heard the instances where this will become a cut-through street. Well, there's lots of cut-through streets in towns. I can go down a list here. Let's see. Cut-through streets. Oxford Street, 60-foot right-of-way. It only has 30-foot pavement. Sul Ross, 56-foot right-of-way, but only a 36-foot pavement. Southland Boulevard, 60-foot right-of-way, 50-foot pavement. Green Meadow, 60-foot right-of-way, 40-foot pavement. So, I mean, you can't argue that a cut-through street is going to then, become an arterial, because we have 4 examples right here where they're still just, regular streets. So that's what we ask. You approve it with the right-of-way width being 60 feet. That's all.
Thanks, guys. All right. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this case? If you do, please step forward, say your name.
I think, I was about to say, I think Shane has something he wants to add.
Okay.
Yeah, Shane Kelton, Director of Operations for the city. reason that the city staff is asking for this to be pushed back out to the 80. One is to maintain consistency through there, since you have 80 foot on both sides of this short section. Again, staff wants to maintain the 80 feet for any future possible needs that may arise. Two, when we start looking at utilities in the street and things like that, how they line up. We're already pushing behind the curb or right there at the edge of curb. We're going to narrow that street, from a maintenance perspective. When we get in there having to do utility work, utility lines, sewer lines, there are 2 sewer lines in Valleyview currently. We're going to extend water through there as well to line up to the south of that. So we just start pushing further and further up into encroaching into yards. And if, in the future, if we're in there and we're making repairs and we're doing work, we know that Valleyview is supposed to be an 80 foot right away, and all of a sudden we're working in 60 foot. And now we're digging in front yards when we don't need to be or shouldn't be. And then I have to replace somebody's front yard. Two, to the point of a 4-lane roadway, a 50 foot wide collector street is a 4-lane roadway. It is designed for 4 lanes. So it will be basically operating and acting like a 4-lane roadway at its collector's width. And then 2, as we look on the portion of Valleyview that's already constructed at 64 foot wide, and we go down there and on that without any width, additional right-of-way width, to be able to bring a taper from that 64 foot to safely transition into the 50 foot, that doesn't allow for that aspect of it as well either. And that's and the tapered transition is actually specified in the MUTCD. So we need that right-of-way width for them to be able to taper into that transition from the 64 foot into the 50 foot wide width. Again, we're not asking for widened paving width right now. Of course, if we did, the city would have to pay for it anyway. So it's not like it would be any extra additional cost to them as well. And then as we look into the future, it will become a cut-through street. Unfortunately, when we look at it, it will become a cut-through street. We do have issues on Southland right now. I agree with Blake. There's a lot of these streets that are built to a much narrower standard than what they are right now, and they're cut-through streets. And I constantly get phone calls about wanting speed humps or wanting other traffic control measures to be placed on these roadways because they become cut-through streets. And so I'm constantly dealing with those. And one thing that we do see, especially on Southland and especially with the school over there, even starting to see some of this in the Twin Mountain Southwest area, due to the school traffic, when you start having those narrowed street widths, and then that one section where the school is, the right-of-way is so narrow with those homes built so close to the front edge of those curbs that for us to go back in there at this point and try to either purchase additional right-of-way from those homeowners and then shorten their front yards to the point where it becomes impractical for them to have a front yard. It starts putting us in a bind when we look into the future. And that's just what we're trying to do now, is look out into the future and what may be there in the future. And it's a whole lot easier for me to have the right of way now than it is, especially if I have to go back and I have to try to purchase right of way from the front yards of 47 different people that already have established yards. We just did Bell Street. It took me over $60,000 in 30 transactions just so I could rebuild Bell Street because of how it was platted in the past. And so, again, as we look to the future, we're just trying to ensure that we have the possibility and the capability of it being there. We're not asking them to pave anything. We're just asking to have the right of way there.
So just for everybody's clarification one more time, this is a collector street in the master thoroughfare plan. A collector normally would require 60 foot of right of way and 50 foot of paving. Staff is asking for 80 to be consistent, but no additional paving width. So they would still pave 50 feet. This would require 10 on each side. So there's 2 different developers, 1 on each side. They would be required 10 additional feet for right of way. Now, to make Shane's point, and one more point, is if we allow the plat to go forward today like it is, and someone builds a house with a 25-foot setback, then we have to go in and acquire 10 feet. That home becomes closer to the roadway. I understand everyone's points. I just want to make sure everybody's clear. Does the board have any questions for the applicants or for staff?
Yes.
I would like to speak.
Okay.
Go ahead, Erica.
So I just want to kind of answer a few of Shane's, comments or responses. I'm the one designing the utilities. There's plenty of room with 60 foot. We do it all over San Angelo. And to really take, 10 foot from each side, well, I can tell you to the north of Valleyview, that kind of kills that project. And we need houses. We need houses right now. We don't need to be, holding off on building houses because there may be a right-of-way acquirement 20 or 30 years down the line. Widening streets is done all over. And yeah, it is a pain to have to go to each house. Sure, I get that. But right now we're in a housing crisis, and we have a few gentlemen that are wanting to do this huge development. And I think I just ask that, Planning Commission keep that in mind when you vote, that we have someone right here, right now, wanting to put in these houses.
Okay.
Thank
you. I've got questions for the staff.
Sure.
How wide is Valleyview Boulevard from Stone Canyon to Southwest Boulevard? What's the paving width and what's the right of way?
64-foot width, paving width, 80-foot right of way.
From Stone Canyon to Southwest, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what is it from College Hills to Knickerbocker?
80-foot right of way, 50-foot paving width.
All right.
Sorry, could you repeat that last one? I got the 50 foot, but what was the other number?
50-foot paving width, 80-foot right of way.
And you're saying it's 64 foot of paving from Stone Canyon to Southwest?
Correct.
Doesn't look like that, but I believe you.
Yeah.
If you drive out there, it's a very large paving section.
Okay. It's a wide road. Well, looking at the thoroughfare, it looks like Southwest Boulevard is about the furthest you could go west on Valleyview before the road essentially ends. It cul-de-sacs or turns into a subdivision as you extend west of Southwest, right?
Correct.
So all the traffic that we're talking about is going to be coming from Southwest or east predominantly, right?
Correct.
We can't extend Valleyview all the way over to US 67. Twin Mountain Road or Twin Mountain Drive seems to be the only way that we could really get all the way over to US 67.
Correct.
So it's not going to be a highway or a major thoroughfare at any point because it dead ends at Southwest Boulevard, right?
Well, it's not gonna be an true sense of an arterial where you're gonna go from arterial to arterial. You're not gonna meet your arterials going across.
Okay.
However, right now we have so much congestion in Southwest San Angelo because we don't have arterials that go through, that this street is going to quickly, once this road segment is connected across, this is going to quickly become a highly traveled roadway. I mean,
okay.
It is going to be hammered. I mean, I can promise you, I have lived through it a couple of different times in different places in town.
Right.
We're going to see the traffic pattern here become just crazy.
So it is currently a 2-lane road. It's not striped for 4 lanes on any section that we're discussing from Knickerbocker to Southwest, right?
It's striped 4-lane from College Hills back to
Knickerbocker.
Back to Knickerbocker. Okay.
And it's not because it acts like it's a basically dead end residential on the other side. It is not currently striped.
So regardless of the width, the right of way that we approve, are you going to make this a 4-lane road all the way to Southwest when that road goes in?
We can, yes. That was the plan.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
that's the plan,
Yes.
as Erica said.
That's the plan.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so the paving width will be 50. I think we've all agreed on that. It's the only thing that's, again, I think Erica brought this point. The only thing that they're disputing is the additional right of way.
Okay.
So Shane, let me
Yes.
ask you a question. You said that a 50-foot street is considered 4 lanes.
Correct.
Okay, so with 10-foot addition on that instead of 30, that would be acceptable also.
So
I'm sorry.
So we would add 10 to each side. So instead of having 5 foot on either side of the roadway, you would have 15 through this section if you went with the 80. So you would have 50 foot of paving, and then you'd have 80 feet of right of way. So the 30 would be split. So we'd have 15 on each side.
Right, for the total. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way to compromise on maybe 70 feet of right away?
Well, I think what Shane's trying to prevent is if we do need to widen it in the future, he's trying to prevent the city having to go in there and acquire additional right of way. Again, this would currently, and I don't know if we have any thoughts about when, but it would currently serve as their front yards. So they wouldn't see any difference. They would still have that 15 feet as grass or rock or whatever they wanted to. What he's trying to prevent is in the future, if we do need to widen the road 5 foot, 10 foot, even all the way up to the 64 feet, the city would then have the right of way at that point and not have to acquire it through other functions. So even if we did the 70, we would still have to possibly go back to each one, let's say in 20 years or something, and say, hey, can we acquire that additional 5 feet?
So I'm looking at the plat here. The Valleyview is running through the northern section of this plat, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it looks like there's single family lots on the north and south side of Valleyview Road through this plat. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
So there's one row of homes north of Valleyview and then the rest of the plat south. So if there was an 80-foot right of way for Valleyview on this plat, could these lots be developed as they're platted?
Yes.
No. Not from our
I'm sorry, Erica. What I meant to say was if the additional right of way was given, the lot sizes would still conform, but there would have to be revisions to the plat.
Okay.
And Erica, can you give them a little bit more information on that? On your answer to that question?
I'll let Lance give answers. It's more towards, marketing those lots and having them be sellable. But Lance?
I'd be happy to jump in. When you encroach in on those lots, and especially on the south side of Valleyview, you're going to be getting those done pretty short, where you've got high-speed 4-lane traffic right out in front of those houses. It'll be pretty disastrous along those lines if that were to occur.
Lance, I understand your concern. I don't know how we prevent a 4-lane road for Valleyview through this subdivision based on the traffic patterns that are there, even if you don't grant the right of way.
Well, we're going to have a 4-lane road. Is that right, Lance? But we just need we're not going to give the 80 foot. Is that correct, Lance?
That's correct. And so the difference, Travis, is you're moving that up close to those houses. If you look at especially on the south side of Valleyview, the depth of those lots, you're going to have them right up in the front of those houses. The street right away, once it was extended 80 foot, would be right up within 10 to 15 feet of those houses, I would guess.
Okay. So you would have to adjust the setbacks on all those lots if you granted the the 10 feet on either side for the wider right-of-way. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. We would have to adjust, basically you would just be taking 10 foot away from the homeowners that they have now.
Right.
The buildable area. That's correct.
Right.
Right.
It's just going to push the houses back. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So I'll add something, Travis, that might be, it's not really a part of this, but it is.
Yes, sir.
And that is, the city has wanted this street open for a long time because it would alleviate a lot of traffic that is now cutting up Grandview and Clearview.
Yes, sir.
And it's still taking a part. And I can tell you from at least Southland Hills' point of view with the lots that we have, when those lots are not sellable for what they cost to put in, you don't put in those lots.
Of course not.
And so that's what we're approaching here is if we can't sell those lots for something proximate to market value, and that's going to be determined on the builders looking at the lot and saying, yes, it's buildable, and yes, I can sell this to buyers. And that's that big concern coming back of when you see an 80-foot right-of-way, you look down at the other end, you see a 65-foot street, you automatically say, well, this is going to be a wide street. I'm going to have a short front yard and not something that I want to put myself in the way of. And so it just kills market values. It's the big
No, and
thing.
I understand that, Lance. I guess the point I'm making is you've got a 4-lane road coming up to this subdivision, and you're going to put a 4-lane road through here. That in itself is going to probably make it less marketable, less desirable than the regular neighborhood thoroughfare streets that you're putting in and the rest of this plat, just by nature. I mean, I think anyone that looked at those lots would understand that there's going to be more traffic along Valleyview Road, regardless of whether we grant the additional right-of-way or not.
So I can tell you back in 1998, to kind of answer from my perception where I thought we were at, back in
Yes, sir.
1998, when this was downgraded to a collector street, it was talked about it being a 2-lane street, not a 4-lane street. And so because that's such a short section of street now, that there was no need to make it 4 lanes all the way through, and that this would neck it down, slow traffic down, and make it more of a residential street than what you have perhaps on a Southland end or a Sunset Drive. So the ideal of making this a 4-lane street for that short area is something that's a little bit new to me along those lines. I can certainly see that happening.
Yes, sir.
If that were to happen, the further off that street you get, the better off you're going to be as far as property.
Right. The better the setback, the more desirable it'll be.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else have wish to speak in public comment? If not, I'm going to close it. All right, I'm going to close public comment and open this up for the commissioners to express opinions or make a motion.
Okay, so on the 60-foot right-of-way, I understand what Shane's saying about the future, which, that those lots have been sitting there since 1998. And the roads were changed. They were considered a collector street. Now it's, all of a sudden being something else on the future side. But I think right now, all we're doing is stalling the building of properties and homes that we need in San Angelo. The Southland area is a very desirable area. A lot of those streets are very wide. They are 2-lane, but they are extremely wide.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion on the revised preliminary and the final of section 22 in Southland Hills Edition. I would like to approve everything with changing the right-of-way to 60 foot. Everything else the same as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second to approve with a 60-foot right-of-way for Valleyview and to grant the variances on Stone Canyon that were recommended by the staff as well, I'm assuming, right, Terry?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye by show of hands. And opposed?
Oh, 6-0.
6-0. Okay. All right, I'm going to jump down a couple of cases here. Can we cover the final plat for Shahan Estate subdivision?
Yes, sir. If that's the direction you want to go.
I would like to cover this one next, if it's okay with you guys.
Okay. I think we're ready.
All right, final plat for Shahan Estate subdivision, a request for approval of a final plat for Shahan Estate subdivision being 23.562 acres located 2,500 feet east of the intersection of South Gas Plant Road, and Shahan Road, and a variance from chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development Subdivision Ordinance to provide 26 feet pavement width in lieu of the required 64 feet for Shahan Road, a minor arterial street.
Okay, this is Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner once again. I've lost my PowerPoint, so I ask that you bear with me for just a minute.
No problem.
I totally lost it. Hillary, do you happen to have it?
I can pull it up real quick. So I've got it. I've got it.
Okay, and I've lost me, so.
That's okay. Can you see what I'm presenting or what I'm showing here?
I can see it.
Okay. So we will. Okay, Sherry Bailey, can you see it?
No.
Okay, as soon as you can, let me know. I'm going to start. So this is a final plat of approximately 23, a little over 23 and a half acres. We are about 2,500 feet east of Gas Plant Road in Shahan Estate. So that would be kind of off your image to the left here. The zoning is actually not applicable since we are in the ETJ. So if you see this red dashed line along here, that is the current city limit line. So we're not too far off, but we are in the ETJ. And the current future land use is designated as rural. So Shahan Estates is a little, I think all of them are over 2 acres, but they're larger lots in the ETJ. So we're looking at 9 lots of at least 2 acres. We have 3 flag lots, and each of the flags have at least 33 feet on the frontage. There is the existing 25 or 20-foot paved section of Shahan Road. They're asking for a variance from the paving width. Shahan Road is actually designated as an arterial, which would require a 64-foot paving width. Currently, with it being 20, they would be required half of the 44, which would be 22. So they are asking to pave 6 foot, making it a minimum 26-foot wide road in lieu of the required 22 feet for the arterial. So again, she's shown just some pictures here of the existing roadway and just kind of ranch farmland at this point. So we are recommending approval of the plat. The plat meets all the regulations. It's rural designation, which reflects these large lots in this neighborhood. It provides safe development and proper development of land in the ETJ. So with chapter 10, staff is not supporting the variance. We're going to go through some of this. Again, we are basing this decision off of the current ordinance and the ordinance stating that any development is required to pave half of the incremental width. So the subdivision ordinance does say at the time of platting, that's when the roadway improvements are triggered. Staff does understand this is a pretty large section being 22 feet. But again, the subdivision ordinance triggers this with the plat. with this area evolving, we're not sure that this isn't the time to get these improvements. We don't know if this will spur future development, and allowing this, the variance now, might prohibit that arterial from developing in the future. We see no current hardship. There's no topographic issues. The master thoroughfare plan states this is a future arterial, so that's what we're basing it off of. And each home might not create significant traffic, but as this area develops out, this road may be needed in the future. So this is just to give you an idea. The proposed, you can kind of see the property, the line goes over it, but you see this red dashed line that kind of goes through this middle here, and then eventually will connect over to Christoval Road. That's what the current plan is. So there are some homes here, but a lot of this land surrounding it is still undeveloped. So, you know, staff wasn't real comfortable allowing a lesser pavement width, knowing that we have a lot of opportunity for development out here in this area. So the existing right-of-way is 40 feet. The paving width is 20. They are required 94 feet of right-of-way is a subdivision and 64 feet of pavement. Their incremental half would be 22 feet. They are proposing to add 6. If you can remember, 26 is the minimum for any road anywhere. So they're proposing to add 6 to meet that minimum. So staff is recommending approval of Shahan Estate subject to 5 conditions and denial of the variance for the 6 in lieu of the 22. So the summary of conditions are a copy of the tax certificate, the drainage study, Shahan Road, submit a financial guarantee or get a variance. We need to provide Tom Green County Environmental Health with the septic system plans, and we must comply with any fire district requirements for the ETJ. Does anyone have any questions?
Anyone have questions for the staff? Okay, I'm gonna open it up for public comment.
All right. Real quick, the property owner wanted to kind of give his thoughts on it, but I did want to state that we didn't come up with 6 foot on our own. That was proposed to us. We've had many meetings about this, and we only found out last week that they weren't going to support this 6 foot. So we didn't come up with the 6 foot. That was, you know, given to us by some of the staff. I guess some of this, you know, I guess it didn't get passed down the line or whatever, but that's kind of where we stand and how we're, you know, trying to rush and get things the way that we need to have them. So, Wes, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Wes Quinn. I recently purchased this property with another partner. I'm going to be building my house on the western portion of this property, and our whole intent was to be able to have 4-H and FFA livestock projects. And where my current subdivision, where I'm at, they don't allow any of that. For the eastern portion, for this plat, we're wanting to basically have that same feel, that same vision, is to have larger properties that will facilitate the 4-H and FFA projects for the youth. The issue on the variance, it kind of chaps me pretty good. Shahan Road is not, as it sits right now, an arterial road, a minor arterial road. I think it should be taking off of the GIS map, being notated as a existing thoroughfare. From the edge of this property, it's about 5,300 feet by roadway as you go down Shahan Road to the west, and then get on Gas Plant Road to get to Christoval Road. Christoval Road only has about 38 to 40 foot of pavement. So that makes me wonder why we're building a big road to the connecting arterial that only has 38 foot of pavement. The eastern connection is going to be Farm Market 1223, and that road only has 40 foot wide of pavement, and that's about 6,200 foot away, and through a bunch of farmland. The 6 foot was brought up in a DRC meeting, and I thought everybody had generally gone with it. We thought it was a compromise with the city staff. At first, and still, I do not think that there's any additional paving needed for this development. As you can see on the plat, we're going to dedicate the right of way as needed. I feel like that is plenty sufficient to go on with any needs that the city's going to require in the future. I don't know. I'm pretty aggravated, but anybody have any questions?
I do, Wes. How wide is the road that's there today?
It's 20 foot wide, and up until the last 2 years, it has been a dirt road. And it's always been a dirt road until the last 2 years. There's they just put, I guess, the 2-course chip seal extending basically from the northwest corner of the property down to where it intersects Goat Road, and then down Goat Road to Fairview School Road, which is also only 20 foot wide of pavement.
Okay. And the 6 foot additional width, I'm assuming, was some sort of compromise for the fire life safety requirement that the city probably initially identified with the narrow width of that paving road. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the road is chip sealed?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you said? Okay. So
that's what I would identify it as. I'm not.
With the motion, I want to ask that the 6 foot addition is chip sealed well to match the existing pavement.
Okay. What is chip seal?
We don't actually have a variance for the construction standards. So I don't know that the board would be allowed to create or make a motion based on a variance that wasn't applied for.
Okay.
Mitchell,
what is a chip seal?
Yeah, Mitchell, can you explain?
Sure. Chip seal, it's a seal coat, so it's your normal process. You see us do it all over town. It's the one layer of asphalt binder with an aggregate on top, usually pre-coated. Okay. So the county, I know the county did that out on Shahan, but it was a 2-course, so it's what it sounds like. It's 2 layers of seal coat basically on top of each other.
Okay, so that road doesn't meet the current subdivision ordinance standards for a road as it sits right now. Is that right?
That would be correct. I would need to look up our rural roadway standards, but I know the county didn't. The county standard is a 2-course surface treatment. Okay.
If they're required to pave additional areas, be it 6 feet, 20 feet, whatever it is, you're saying that additional width would have to meet the subdivision ordinance for paving?
That's my
how would that work? I mean, how do you tie in an asphalt road with a chip seal road?
I mean, it can be done. I will say that there are instances, and there have been instances that I'm aware of where we have allowed a 2-course surface as long as the base standards are to city standard. So we've allowed the county surfacing standard, but with the city base spec, and we have allowed that before in other subdivisions out in the county.
So I guess my question is, Hillary had said that you may not be able to, the board may not be able to vote on that. So if we wanted to get that done, Hillary, what what would be the steps? I mean, can the board go ahead and vote on it, and then if we need to do some additional work, we can?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. John, if you're on, or Mitchell, if you have any ideas. Again, I'm not the engineer or the person to talk to on these items, but
well, I just wanted to make sure that we could do it legally.
Sure. Yeah,
You know what
sure.
I mean?
Yeah,
Hillary,
no,
I was gonna point out that in that section on construction standards and specification,
okay.
Public Works Director shall hereby be authorized to promulgate appropriate methods, materials, and specifications for improving public streets. So as far as the actual materials used, I don't think that's something this commission, has authority to vary.
So it would be working. It would be working with Shane and Mitchell and engineering and operations. Let's say that to come up with the actual methods and materials.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Does anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right. I'm going to close public comment. I'm going to open it up for discussion or a motion from the commissioners.
So I know we've had other properties that have come in, that are ETJ, that we have accepted the chips, the smaller roads.
Right.
And it is, in the county, this is a county road. It has already been, they're the ones that paved it. So they have approved it and everything. I would make a motion that we let the road stay at the 26 foot, which they thought that they were being given that opportunity, and to approve the final plat with 26 foot instead of the current 20 foot.
Okay.
Second that motion.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to approve with a 6 foot additional paving as opposed to the 20, was it 22 that the city required?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That's the ordinance. Yes, sir.
So that's it. All in favor, say aye with show of hands. And opposed?
6-0.
Okay. Guys, I'm so sorry, but I've got to step out. I will see you guys next month. Terry, can you take over?
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Travis. Okay, I'm assuming the next two are read together. Is that
The
correct?
bluffs. Yes, ma'am. The bluffs will be read together.
Okay, revised preliminary plat, section 22, the Bluffs edition. A request for approval of a revised preliminary plat, section 21, the Bluffs edition, being 11.191 acres, located northeast of Amberton Parkway and Berkeley Road. And item G is the first replat of tract BB, section 21, the Bluffs edition. A request for approval of a first replat of tract BB, section 21, the Bluffs edition, being 11.191 acres, located northeast of Amberton Parkway and Berkeley Road, and a variance from chapter 10.II.A.2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a paving width of 0 feet without curb and gutter in lieu of the required 40 foot with curb and gutter for Berkeley Road, an urban local street.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. This is Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner again. So again, we're gonna, as you said, we're gonna combine these. This is a revised preliminary plat and a first replat of tract BB, section 21 in the Bluffs edition.
Jeff, we are not seeing your screen.
Okay. Is that on there now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So it's 11.191 acres. This original tract was for commercial or multifamily as part of a preliminary plat. So the applicant has submitted a revision to that to allow the proposed, which is going to be 15 single family lots. They're already zoned RS1. And then the front portion here in the back is zoned CG. So that could allow future commercial development, although most of the area to the back is floodway. So really their goal is to get the 15 single family lots that I'll show you in a minute, and then leave the back for potential commercial development in the future. This is District 6, Billy DeWitt in the Bluffs neighborhood. So the 15 new single family homes, as you can see here, so north is going to the left of Amberton Parkway. And then there's a section of Berkeley Road, which was never developed, but it shows as a right of way. So as part of the plat, that's going to trigger the incremental half on Berkeley, and that minimum we mentioned earlier today in previous cases is at 26 feet. So they're asking, since it's a dead end here and goes into an ASU property, to leave that at 0 feet, and the city's asking for 26 feet on the variance. So this is looking at, again, where Berkeley dead ends. I've talked to ASU. There's no plans right now to develop behind there, but there's always that chance that they could sell that land, or they could change their mind. The city might want to have that. So leaving it at 0 feet might just create an issue, and the city would have to come in and pave that. So we're against the variance based on that. Otherwise, no issues. We received one in favor in that Green Star. Because this is a replat and a portion's RS1, we did circulate. So out of the 28 notices, there's the one in favor. The one against, she was actually in support of the plat. And she's, in a sense, she's actually in support of the variance. Her issue was drainage. She doesn't want Berkeley to be paved, which is the applicant's position. So she's opposed to improving Berkeley, which in essence is taking the same side as the applicant in that case. Her concern, I guess, she lives up on Davenport and was just concerned about some drainage, but engineering is here to comment on that if it comes up. But we do have a drainage study as a condition of approval, which is a normal standard and should address that street. So the final plat will conform with the revised preliminary plat against the same area that we're looking at. The plat conforms with the neighborhood policies to support a mix of housing choices. The commercial lot in the back is not consistent with the neighborhood designation, but it was already zoned CG before. So we believe in general it conforms. The intent of purpose statements, Amberton already has existing sufficient right-of-way and paving width. Again, the only issue is the street width on Berkeley, which was never developed. So we are recommending denial on the variance for Berkeley, just given that there is that potential one day that it could be developed to the east. If we miss that opportunity, again, the city would have to come in and do that. Dead end streets are not unique to the city. We have a lot of dead end streets. We've had some cases today where they're required to pave to the end or provide a hammerhead. So this wouldn't be any different. There wouldn't be any hardship in the sense all the streets in the area are already fully paved with curb and gutter. And so those developers had done that with their subdivisions. This would be the only piece that's left that wouldn't be. And again, just for general safety, when lots develop adjacent to a street, having that required paving width for fire and public safety is important. Staff recommends approval of a revised preliminary plat, section 21, the Bluffs Edition, and approval of a first replat of track BB, section 21 of the Bluffs Edition, and denial of the variance to maintain 0 feet of paving without curb and gutter for Berkeley Road, thereby requiring the 26 feet, subject to the 6 conditions in your staff report. So that was the tax certificate, correcting the spelling on Berkeley Road. It should just be BERKLEY. Installing the water and wastewater lines, a drainage study, prepare and submit plans for the required improvements of Berkeley or financial guarantee or the variance, and installing the fire hydrants. Just some notes, there may be some additional floodplain requirements. Again, that east part of the lot that's zoned commercial is in the portion of the floodway. Engineering sealed foundation prior to permitting, and recommended rezoning to one zoning district for the commercial lot. Just that front part is RS1. The back is commercial. So if they ever put like a small retail plaza in there, you've got potentially some compatibility issues with that little piece in the front, depending on where they're locating their buildings. But again, that's up to the applicant. This concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Well, and I'd like to add something if you'd allow me, Ms. Jackson. So let me talk about the reason for denial of variance from the staff perspective. We are approving a preliminary plat, and they are right now proposing to add the homes and not do anything with the commercial lot. That was their proposal today. So our suggestion was final plat the residential lots and leave the big commercial lot preliminarily platted. Again, we're approving that today. And then we will defer the requirements to Berkeley for another day, because I don't think it needs to be paved today. There's nothing that it connects to, but at the same time, if we are final platting that commercial track, now is the time to get the road. So if we final plat it today and give them a 0-foot variance, and all of a sudden we develop homes or businesses to the east, now that developer and or the city is going to have the obligation when it should have fallen on this section of the bluffs. So I hope everyone kind of understands the way staff was looking at it. If we were okay with, I mean, we're good with approving the preliminary plat and final platting the residential lots. That's great. My concern was if we final plat the commercial, have a buildable lot there and don't do Berkeley with that at the same time, then we run into problems later. So I hope.
Well, and the picture of Berkeley looks like it's a natural drainage right now. So
Correct.
it looks like it's draining and doing, going naturally.
Sure. And, we actually talked about the pavement. If there was pavement, the pavement could actually speed up the water to get out of there faster. So, the lady was talking about some of the drainage being an issue. Paving this may actually speed that up and get it to the right-of-wayo quicker. So just another thing to consider.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Russell, your sound is not working right now. I don't know what you did.
Yeah, it's a little scary. No, you're on mute now, Russell. There you go.
No. You might, if Ray can do it, you might log out and log back in real quick. Sometimes that helps. So see if you can exit, and then Ray, are you available to bring him back in when he gets back on?
I moved him to the waiting room, and then I'll bring him back in. So he has to reconnect.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other public comment while we're waiting on Russell?
Let's see. Okay, now see if you can unmute, see if it'll work.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, barely. So maybe speak up a little bit, but it's clear now.
Okay. Hillary, thanks for sharing the city's perspective on that. And we don't disagree with that, really. The reality of this, and we've been working with the developer trying to figure out how to use this area. Let me pull up I'll share my screen with you. And as you can tell, there's a lot of floodplain and floodway behind the back of this property. And really, the developer, they see these 15 lots as really kind of being the end of completion of this land. If the city wants this back part, there's conversations to be had about giving that to the city. But the idea is these 15 lots may ultimately be deeded this land and let them share it as a common space in the back. And so yes, we could pull back and only plat those 15 lots and have a remainder track BB. And I said, okay, well, we're going to finish this out. Let us go to the planning commission. And if we can get the variance so that we can have a platted lot, because I know the city loves platted lots over remainder lots. And we'll go that route. If we don't get the variance, then we'll just pull back next time. We'll come in with a final plat only of those 15 lots, and we won't have to deal with the variance. Berkeley, the developer of the Bluffs owned that land to the east there, and they had a preliminary plat. They were showing larger lots back in there. And then at some time since then, they gave that land to ASU. And because it's so much floodplain back there, not really highly developable. And so ASU owns that. As Jeff said, ASU doesn't have any immediate plans. So if ASU ever develops that, or they do something and sell it, there is an opportunity there through Berkeley. If we go in today and we pave Berkeley today or in the immediate future, then it becomes a maintenance now it's on the city's maintenance of having to take care of it as a street. So, we could see the downside is we pave it, nobody uses it, and it just becomes a maintenance burden to the city. So our ask, and that's why we kind of asked to let us develop this as we have proposed. The developer does not envision this to be commercial back there. They just want to develop these 15 lots and look at just kind of giving that land. As part of the drainage study, we may do a detention pond back there for these 15 homes, and it just becomes kind of a green belt through this area. So we really would just like the variance approved from the street improvements to Berkeley. If we don't get it, then we're just coming back and we're going to be asking, and we'll be talking about this next month for just the 15 lots, and Berkeley stays as it is, and we have a remainder of tract of tract BD.
I've got a few thoughts on the Russell, how those lots have been open and vacant, partially due to the fact that they're in the floodplain for how many years now? At least
since the 80s when the bluff went in.
Okay. I have a hard time seeing that any commercial would actually get developed over there. I've looked at it personally as far as trying to do a few things back there, and the cost doesn't outweigh the benefits, to a lot of people in a commercial development standpoint. Also, I did used to live right over on Davenport. There is a lot of water drainage there. And I know, Hillary, you had mentioned that maybe putting some pavement there would assist moving the water flow. But in a maintenance standpoint for the city, I truly feel like it would deteriorate the pavement there much faster, where right now it's just channeling and kind of going down that drainage easement. So those are my thoughts on it. And I don't know if anyone has anything else to say.
I'll just say one thing. I agree with Hillary earlier, because we had talked about this, that I think really the ideal would have been to just preliminary plat all of it and then just final plat the 15 lots and then kind of kick that down the road when they go to develop. One of the reasons that we saw the potential for Berkeley is even though there's floodway, most of it's floodplain. It's in the 1% area, which means that there is development potential. So that first 100 feet, if you go east of Amberton, going vertical is floodway, but then as you go east of that, so I think if all of it was floodway, it would be a lot harder. But I'd say about 90% of that ASU lot is in the 1% area, which means that more difficult, but potentially developed. But I still think, if we can move that down the road, it wouldn't have been a bad idea.
I was going to say, the undevelopable part of it is actually what helps make the case for just preliminarily platting it. Because if it is undevelopable, they don't ever do anything and they get the variance, then we do get something to the east where we need to connect. We'll never get the roadway. So this preliminary, leaving it as a part of an approved preliminary plat does help us in the future possibly get some sort of improvement if and when it does do anything. So if we approve it today, then they will have waived that requirement. And if it's undevelopable, we may never see that part of Berkeley. So
help me understand what, if it ever develops, I guess it would be ASU or someone that ASU conveys the land to. They have to cross a floodway with a substantial structure, do the studies. The developer of this land would be responsible coming out to Amberton, not the city. The city does not have an obligation to build this segment of the street ever. So it's not a city requirement, it would just be a developer requirement. So
possibly, yes.
It's
just so far in the future, that was our only concern. We just don't know.
Right. we would love just to, and it's odd in this case, I'm arguing to let's create a platted lot where I'm usually the one saying, well, let's just leave it as a remnant fee. So choose on the other foot here. But, if we'd like to just take an opportunity, if planning commission would give us the variance and we have the platted lot, great. If not, then is there a way, Hillary, that the variant or the approval could be to approve the plat with the 15 lots, and I'll just take off tract BB1 from this final plat? Is that a possibility?
I think we're gonna have to come back with another plat, because that's a pretty major run of like a revision, but we could do that in January. If they want to approve the preliminary plat today, we could do that and deny the variance on the other one. Then we could come back in January and bring them the revised 15 lots if that's the way we choose to go. So it's really up to the board at this point.
But I guess our ask would be, let's take an opportunity. If we get voted down and get denied the variance, then I can go back to the developer and say, you want to build a street, have a developer's agreement, or come back with another plat next month with just the 15 lots.
But you would want to leave the preliminary plat today, Russell.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, let's get the preliminary approved, because I don't believe there's any issues with that. And then the next month we can come in, if we don't get the variance for Berkeley, then we get to come back next month with just the final plat of those 15 lots.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and go to the commission for discussion.
So basically our option right now is, like we just said, approve the preliminary and table the commercial aspect till January.
No. Actually, what you would do is you can approve both if you wanted to. You could approve the preliminary replat and vote against the replat of tract BB. And then at that time that would be denied, and that could come back again next month.
So what I would suggest is, it's really, the plats basically conform to our subdivision standards. So if you're so inclined, recommending approval of both the plats, then you can make the decision on the variance. If you deny the variance, then like Russ said, he'll have to go back to the developer and say, do you want to build the street, or do you want to go back in January and just take the 15 lots? Because they have the option to do that too. So it's really up to you guys on, really the variance is what we're deciding on. The plats themselves meet the subdivision ordinance standards.
So on that, just a comment on the paving of Berkeley Road, just that little bit that would be done. I would have to agree with Brittany that it looks like, pavement that is continual. Of course, we don't get that much rain, but when we do, it gets hard. It hits hard, and you can see the pavement around town where that's happened, where it deteriorates very rapidly when it does rain. So that would be another, just a aspect of looking at it.
Sure. Well, and I don't think we think we necessarily need the road paved. We just had other options of, if you don't want the road paved, then let's just do the 15 lots and leave the other one as part of the approved preliminary. Sure. So if they're going to final plat it, then the subdivision ordinance requires the road to be paved. So.
Right. Okay. Do we have a motion from the commission? As chairman, I cannot make a motion.
I'm just reviewing the notes really quick.
Okay, sure.
Can we take these individually? If there's a concern about the final, maybe at least do the preliminary.
Sure.
That's
we can do
definitely
that.
another option. If we want to approve the preliminary first, we could do that.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion for the revised preliminary plat, section 21, the Bluffs edition.
hopefully I've got this right. So I will approve the motion for the 15 lots, and I'm also and I'm going to deny, or I'm sorry, and I'm going to also approve the 0 feet without curb and gutter be actually approved, not denied.
Okay, so you're making a motion to approve the preliminary plat and then the first replat of tract BB with the variance being 0 feet on Berkeley Road.
That's correct, Terry.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. We have a recommendation and a second. All those in favor, if you'll raise your hand, please. All those opposed?
So that was 5-0.
Okay, motion carries. And we are going to take a 5-minute break. I don't know if Ray can put a little clock on or something, but I think everybody needs a break.
So it's 10:53. So if everyone, you can turn off your cameras for a little bit, but if you'll be back on at least by 10:58, we'll take a small.
10:58. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
They're already doing that. Knowing my vote.
Okay, I have it's 10:58. If everyone can start their cameras back up.
We still have a couple missing, so we'll wait just a second. A second, how about a minute?
Ryan, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh no, I said Ryan. You heard Brian.
Oh.
I was trying to say Ryan. Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that.
Terry, we have 4, so if you want to get started,
Okay. Yeah, and
you can hop on.
that 1 minute is up now, so we'll go ahead and get started with number H, which is Hulsher Farm Estates, Section 2A, a request for approval of a final plat of Hulsher, I can't even talk today, Hulsher Farm Estates, Section 2A, being 1.593 acres located approximately 1,600 feet southeast of Country Club Road and Hilton Head Boulevard. A variance from Chapter 10.111.A.2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to allow a 0-foot paving width in lieu of the required 30 feet, and a variance from Chapter 10.11.C.4 to allow a 2-course surface in lieu of the required hot mix asphalt for Club Creek Lane, a rural local street.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is Hulsher Farm Estates, Section 2A. Some of you that were on this commission about 2-3 years ago, there was a Section 1 and 2 to the north. So this is for one lot, and it's going to be the extension of Club Creek Lane to plat this 1.593 acre lot for a single family home. The future land use is rural. This is in the ETJ. So there's no plans to annex right now, but it is in the immediate area, so it could be annexed in the future. So there's the lot. So we had further discussions with the applicant. Originally, they showed a turnaround just up on the corner here. There are 2 lots down here, as well as, even though this is in the VORTAC radius, you've got a large lot here and 2 lots here. So we didn't want to leave a landlocked lot. So we worked with our applicant. The applicant submitted a revised plan to show a 30-foot right-of-way, which is what we wanted, but they are requesting not to pave it at this time. I guess given that it's a dead end, and but staff is concerned about this lot to the west. So we are in partial support of that variance, provided they do a developer agreement. We'll get to that in a minute. Their second variance is to allow a 2-course surface. So if it is paved, to use the 2-course standard instead, which staff is in support because the earlier sections of Hulsher were 2-course and not asphalt. So this is looking south on Club Creek Lane, and this is looking north. You can see this directly abuts Section 2, so some of the homes are already under construction. Our rationale is to approve the plat. It conforms with the comprehensive plan. It's got the rural policies, so whether you stick with a future zoning of R&E or it becomes more urban one day in RS1, either way, that's over 1.5 acres, that's going to allow for now private wells and septic system to service the lot, given that size should be sufficient. The lots will comply with, again, either the R&E or the RS1 zoning that conforms with several of the purpose statements. Staff is recommending denial of the first variance from paving at all, but are, I guess, a partial support provided they do a developer agreement to dedicate that at such time as the development to the west happens. And so this will allow them to get their plat recorded. And then if they go, again, if the developer to the west goes to plat, at that time, they would pave their 30 feet, or excuse me, their incremental half, and then they would do their incremental half on the other side. So That's pretty much that. We don't believe there's a hardship from paving a street. Again, we understand that there isn't any development right now, but again, that lot to the west, some of the lots to the south are going to need access one day. So it's one of those same situations as some of the previous plats. If we don't require it now, we're going to create a problem down the road. It would vary the land development subdivision ordinance if we didn't get the paving width, just because again, you'd have that situation. We are in support of the surfacing variance. So if they do have to pave it through the developer agreement in the future, we are going to want the 2 course, and we're good with that. It wouldn't at this time be appropriate to get the asphalt when the entire area around it is 2 course. So this would be sufficient where they're located. It would create a hardship having to pave the 2 course just for the 1 lot, given that the surrounding area is not. Staff recommends approval of Holscher Farm Estates Section 2A, denial of the variance from 10382 to allow 0-foot paving width for Club Creek Lane, a rural local street, subject to a development agreement to provide the incremental half with the 2-course surface treatment at the time of development of the property to the west. So again, we are going to require it, but we're going to defer that through a developer agreement, and they will not have to pave that until the development to the west is established. And finally, approval of a variance from 10 to C4 when it gets paved to have a 2-course surface, subject to 4 conditions of approval. So provide a copy of the tax certificate, illustrate the 20-foot front building line that's consistent with the lots to the north, prepare and submit plans for the required improvements to Club Creek Lane, financial guarantee variance, or the developer agreement, which is our position to allow a 2-course surface at the time of development to the west, and submit a revised plat increasing the turnaround right of way to 40 feet. So that hammerhead they provided meets the minimum dimensional standards in the subdivision ordinance, but with the exception of the actual right of way around it, it's 30 feet and it needs to be 40. So that's a minor thing, and I've talked to Mr. Gully on that already. Just one note, the developer is advised prior to any development on the subject property to resolve any outstanding FAA requirements pertaining to the nearby Vortex site. I don't believe this lot is in the radius when I had measured it, but again, it may come up in the future. So just basically an FYI for the applicant. This concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Okay, Jeff, do you mind going back to your screen on
Sure.
So this is just for that 1 lot, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you have one that shows where the VFR, the Vortex is?
I don't, and I think
Okay.
the reason I didn't is because it is over on this side. So
Right.
it's to the west.
Go back one more, maybe to your first one and show the aerial of the area. There you go.
Yeah, there you
Okay.
go. Okay. So it is, yeah, it is over from
I
there.
know that's the
Okay.
Vortex area there. I'm just not sure the radius, but I think that circle kind of goes like this.
It does. Yeah, it does. I don't remember how big the radius is of it. Well, it's very big because it can track you for a long ways. But anyway, okay. Thank you. Anyone
You're
have
welcome.
questions of Jeff? Okay, we'll open it for public comment.
Russell with SKG Engineering. We're really not in opposition to any of this. I guess the carrot, if you will, of the developer's agreement that when or if that property to the west ever develops, most of that is in that Vortex. Someone could try to squeeze one little lot in there. If and when they do, the developer understands that it would be beneficial to that lot, the adjacent lot, and the lots to the south. So long as with the deferral and the developer's agreement, we really take no opposition to this.
Okay. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Okay, we're going to close public comment and open it up to the commissioners for discussion and or motion.
Seems like it was presented well. I mean, I'm voting to approve as presented.
Okay, so you're voting to deny the 0-foot width, but to allow the 2-course surface.
That's
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Joe, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand to show your sign.
Okay, that was 5-0.
5-0. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we've already done shake hands, so we're going to skip down to number J. First replat of Tract 8, Shalimar Acres subdivision. A request for approval of the first replat of Tract 8, Shalimar Acres subdivision being 8 acres located 920 feet northeast of the intersection of Shalimar and El Camino Grande, and a variance from chapter 9.111.8.1 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to approve 2 lots that do not have direct and abutting access to a dedicated and improved public street. Is this Sherry's?
Yeah, Sherry Bailey, if you're talking, you're muted. Your screen's fine, you're just muted.
Sherry
you
said
hear
she'll
me
be about
now?
1 minute. There we go.
Okay.
Yes, there you go.
Okay, let's try this again. This is, as you indicated, the first replat of Tract 8, Block 1. It's an 8-acre tract. It's in the northeast of Shalimar Road. There is no zoning because this is in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, the ETJ, but the future land use for this area does have it as rural. I included the original plat because I wanted to show you the makeup. Since 1988, there were 8 lots. There are still 8 lots in this area. A private road was part of the deed at that point in time. The private road itself is divided up, the ownership, by a percentage of frontage that they have on the road. And then the maintenance for that road is a joint maintenance agreement. Again, the cost of the maintenance is split up by that same frontage percentage. That has consistently been maintained since 1988. If you go out on the road, it's larger towards what I would consider this side of the area. And then it starts to taper down as you get in towards the end and the cul-de-sac at the very end of Shalimar. The proposed plat before you is to make 2 4-acre lots out of this 1 8-acre tract. There is a small slag which brings it down so that they have access to the city-owned property that's immediately adjacent to the river, because there is an agreement for access and use with that city-owned property. We sent out 7 notices on November 25th. And I forgot, on late Friday and then again on Saturday, we ended up receiving a number of notices. There are 2 that are within the 200 feet, and the remaining notices are outside of that 200 feet. I called and talked to 2 people. One was under the misunderstanding that there was a large number of lots that were actually going to be developed on this tract, and they were extremely concerned, as was everybody who had sent in the petition, that the water, particularly in this area, they were concerned about that number of lots. I told them that only what was being proposed were 2 4-acre lots, and they seemed to be okay with that. The other person simply just did not want the division of the 8-acre tract into the 2 4-acre tracts. The rationale for the approval of the plat before you is the future land use in this area has the area's rule. The 2 4-acre lots that are being proposed are consistent with rural standards, particularly in this case because they're both beyond wells and septic systems, so they would be restricted in size anyway. And the existing deed allows only division down to 2 1/4 acres, and this 4-acre size certainly complies with that. The conformity with intent and purpose statements, the plat will provide for the orderly, safe, and efficient development of the city. Platting we encourage it all the times, particularly in the ETJ, and it does provide a systematic and accurate record of the land development. Where we run into a problem and why staff is recommending that the provision for the private road and requiring that, in fact, they come into compliance with city standards is that according to the subdivision ordinance, we cannot allow the development of any lots that are not on the, I'm sorry, I hadn't moved that, not on a developed and public street. And in this case, the private road, although it has functioned well in the past, and although the maintenance of it has certainly been kept up, it does not meet the city subdivision land ordinance requirement for a public street and
Sherry,
access on that. Yes?
I hate to interrupt you. Can you go back to that when you first started talking about that and go over that slide, the next one, the one previous? Yeah.
Okay.
Can you please repeat that?
Conformity with the intent and purpose statement, the proposed plat does not ensure proper land development in the ETJ. That is because of the requirement under the subdivision ordinance that we cannot allow lots to be developed, platted and developed, except being abutting and adjacent to a public street. In this case, we have a private street that even though it's existed since '88 and been maintained by the property owners, it is not a public street and does not meet that requirement.
Sherry, not to interrupt, just a moment ago, did you not just say that in the restrictions there that those lots were able to be divided down into 2-acre tracts?
Under their deed, they could be divided down. They were restricted to 2 1/4 acre tracts. Under the subdivision ordinance, if they were on and adjacent to a public street, they could divide down as far as 1 acre. But they are restricted because there is no water out there. They are restricted to a well and a septic system, but all that's required for that is 1 acre. Again, where the problem comes in is the fact that it's on a public road and it's not on, or it's on a private road, it's not on a public road, and it's not adjacent to that public street. The applicants.
Real quick, just so we're talking about 2 different set of regulations, and I want to make sure we're clear on that. One is their deed restrictions, which they still have to abide by per their property, but they're also having to abide by the subdivision ordinance. So a lot of what Sherry is referencing in her PowerPoint is the subdivision ordinance, not the deed restrictions.
Right. And the applicant felt that the road functions well as a private road. It has functioned well for all of the people who live out in there. It is a dead-end road. It does not leave that subdivision area. And they requested the variance for the requirement that it not have to be a public road and it not have to be adjacent to that public road. Staff is recommending the approval of the replat of Tract 8, Block 1, Shalimar Acres, subject to 4 conditions, and denial of the variance to provide the 2 lots that do not have direct and abutting access. When we're looking at the conditions that staff is recommending, the tax certification to provide Tom Green County with the environmental health with a septic system plan, to comply with the ETA fire district for fire protection requirements, and to submit plans for improvements to Shalimar Road or to obtain a variance. And that is really the discussion point for this plat.
Well, and I want to make another point. I think staff had a hard time with this one. We understand the road functions like it is today. We understand that they've got restrictions on how it is and how they divide up the cost. And we completely understand all those points. We're stuck with our subdivision ordinance, and our subdivision ordinance is very clear that no lot shall be approved unless it has direct and abutting access. So the plat itself, we don't necessarily have any problems with. It's just the direct and abutting access. So it's really up to y'all about the variance request. That's really what we're bringing to you. Staff is recommending denial, again, because the ordinance specifically says no lot shall be approved unless it has direct and abutting access, but the applicant has requested a variance from that. So if that variance is approved, the plat itself meets all the other requirements of the ordinance.
Right.
So there's no way that it's going to have direct and abutting access to any public road out there. They're all private.
Correct. To have a direct and abutting access, they'd have to go a long way. You know, in the past, when we've had these private roads, we've done some flag lots, we've done some different things to allow them to have direct and abutting access. This one just, you can't, it's too far back. You know, it wasn't, we've done some on Becker Lane and different ones where they were 200 feet back. We could do a little flag and we could meet the ordinance requirements. But this one specifically, just, you know, we kind of struggled with it. We understand the applicant's point and what they're trying to do, but at the same time, it just does not meet the ordinance.
Staff felt that they had no choice but to recommend that that variance be denied.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Any questions for Ms. Bailey? Okay, I'm going to open it to public comments.
Good morning, Russell with SKG. This isn't really a situation that the proponent at this point had created. You know, there are a lot of private streets, access easements in and around San Angelo. You know, you look at some of the private streets in Bentwood, they technically don't meet. You look at a lot of the streets or lots in Lake Nasworthy, which was platted by the city of San Angelo, do not meet. Hillside, Red Bluff, those are not direct and abutting access. So, you know, there are cases and situations created that access easements, private roads, shared roads, you know, that's the way the state of Texas, San Angelo, Tom Green County, that's a necessary way for things to be able to develop. So, you know, certainly we understand the city's position. I find it, I was somewhat puzzled. I got to looking through the comments, the plats today. You just approved the Lucky Lou edition, section 1. And you technically, for that final plat, you technically created a landlocked piece of land that has a tract A that is a 50-foot wide utility and egress easement to the remainder part of that tract. So, you know, you're against it, but
that's not exactly correct because it has access to Crystal Point, but yes.
Well, Crystal Point doesn't exist today.
And that lot's not final platted today. That's correct.
It's not platted today, but it will be landlocked because you're creating lot 1 and lot 2. That theoretically, that 50-foot tract A should have been part of that remainder piece. So yeah, if Crystal Point would touch that back part of that, then sure, we would have that. Ultimately, it's going to develop out, and we have that. But as of with the recording of Lucky Lou Addition Section 1, potentially that becomes a landlocked piece, and it's served only by a private access from tract A. I don't want to get chasing that rabbit trail, but we just want to let you know that, you know, we're complying as best we can given the situation we have. If that area functions, you know, we're not doing 10 lots. You know, apparently that rumor went around through all of those neighbors down there that they were dividing it into 10 lots. They're dividing it into 2 lots. The proponent's going to build their own personal home on one of those lots, and then a close friend, they're going to build a home for him on that one. So, you know, this is just kind of, we're trying to legally, properly replat this. We would ask that you approve the variance for the private road. It's done. This isn't the only situation like this in San Angelo or Tom Green County. It's done quite frequently, so we would just ask your approval of that. I do have a question of staff. Ms. Bailey, you referenced the ETJ Fire District.
Right. Pecan Creek Fire District.
Okay. The specific Pecan Creek. Not,
right.
I was thinking there was some ETJ type.
No. Pecan Creek Fire District. I talked to them and they were very specific about what size of holding tank they would recommend.
And I guess the proponent, they can coordinate with them. And
right.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Russell. Is there any more public comment?
Brandy or Garrett, do y'all want to comment? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to address everybody that before we even offer.
Brandy, you have some feedback that's really bad. I don't know if you have your phone on also, but there's a lot of bad feedback.
It should be better now. Can you hear me?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
So before we even made an offer on this property, I came to Russell specifically because we wanted to talk to the city about dividing this into 2 pieces. We actually had a meeting with the planners of the city back in August to go over this. And it was just a request for the variance of that private road because it is not a city street. It's not a county street. A couple things that are great about that is all of us on Shalimar Road pay taxes on that, but nobody maintains it besides the people on Shalimar Road. When we had the meeting in August, unanimously, everybody said they didn't see any problems with it. It would be just fine. So at that point, we decided to go along and make an offer on this property. And then we closed it with the plans of dividing it into 2 pieces, one for my husband and I personally, and one for a close friend. So we were kind of surprised when I got notification at the end of last week about the denial that was being recommended, especially after meeting with the city in August, doing exactly what we had set forth.
Okay. Thank you, Brandy. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment and have discussion and/or recommendation from the commission.
Okay, I know that we were discussing 2 different things as far as the subdivision restrictions versus, the road requirements. As far as that development's gone, I mean, there's maybe been a handful of new homes that have gone up over the last 10 years in that development. To my knowledge, the owner of one of the back properties also owns the property next to it, which they're just using it as farmland. So in my outlook on this is you're not increasing the road traffic exponentially by any means. You're taking an 8-acre tract, dividing it down into 4 acres, which then can never be divided again based on the subdivision regulations. So in my opinion, I do not see any issue with as far as the variance that the applicant applied for personally.
Okay. So with that being the 16-foot private road that is in the ETJ, are you going to make that into some sort of motion?
Yes, I just wanted to let anyone else that had any comment.
Okay, feed into that. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Oh, with that being said, did you have anything, Terry?
No, I was just going to say, Joe, and Ryan, this is your opportunity to speak. Seeing none, Brittany?
Okay, so with that being said, I am going to vote in approval of the replat, and then I'm also going to vote to approve the variance that the applicant has requested from the planning board.
Okay. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
That was Ryan.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve the replat and also the private road to be used as is. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Raise your hand, please. Can we have one in opposition?
Yep, so that's 4-1.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item K, replat of Block 6, Riverside Acres. A request for approval of a replat of Block 6, Riverside Acres, being 1.27 acres located southeast of South Bell Street and East Riverside Avenue, and 2 variances from section 10.III.8.2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a minimum paving width of 44 foot in lieu of the required 64 foot for South Bell Street, an urban minor arterial street, and to maintain a minimum paving width of 36 feet in lieu of the required 50 foot for East Riverside Avenue, an urban minor collector street.
All right. Good morning, Planning Commission. This will be my first case. So again, Hillary Bucher, Planning Manager for the City of San Angelo. So we are looking at the replat of Block 6, Riverside Acres. It is a replat of a little over an acre, 1.27. It is currently addressed 105 through 111 East Riverside. If the plat's approved, I'm sure those will minorly change. The current zoning is RS1 with a future land use of neighborhood. It's in SMD number 4, Lucy Gonzalez's district in the Bel Air neighborhood. So as you can see, they're proposing to add basically 5 lots total. So there was 2 currently, so they'll be adding 3. There are variance requests to maintain 36 foot of paving width on East Riverside Avenue that is designated as a collector on the current master thoroughfare plan, and to maintain 44 foot of paving width on South Bell Street. So the plat itself does conform to the comprehensive plan. The RS1 zoning is consistent with the neighborhood, as well as this is really a continuation of that existing development over there. As you look in the area, there's a lot of single family homes in that side. It also will provide for orderly, safe, and efficient development of the city, and it will provide streets that ensure safe and convenient circulation. So let's talk about the 2 variances from Chapter 10.3A2. They are the paving width variances. So staff is actually recommending approval on both of these for different reasons. The current streets meet the need of the area. Adding 4 additional homes will not significantly increase the traffic. So South Bell Street was improved to its current width in, I believe it was 2012. I'll have to go back and look at the exact dates, but here recently, the city was actually the one that determined that width. So that's the reason we've supported variances on South Bell Street. Also, this section of East Riverside, although it's a collector on the master thoroughfare plan, is very much developed out. So as we look through these, I'll show you some pictures and you can see that this development will not significantly increase that. These streets, again, are within a fully developed area and maintain the same widths adjacent to the plat. The streets serve the area, currently have curb and gutter, and 4 homes will not increase the strain on these streets. And this width is sufficient. It will not pose a safety risk. So again, this is the area of Riverside. You can see all homes all around it. This is the subject property that you're seeing on the left-hand side picture. It is on the right. You can see the current home is being remodeled. And then the right picture is looking back toward Bell Street. So very nice, has been recently retopped. You can see, even though it's 36 feet, it's very wide and can accommodate parking as you go along. So these are pictures of South Bell Street. Looking on the left picture, we are looking south. On the right picture, we are looking northbound. Again, this section was rebuilt within the last 10 years at a standard which the city determined at that time was adequate. So staff is recommending approval of the replat of Block 6 Riverside Acres and approval of a variance to maintain 36-foot wide paving for East Riverside, as well as an approval of a variance to allow 44-foot paving width on South Bell Street, subject to 5 conditions. The first one being a copy of the tax cert. The second one, to improve Bell Street, submit a financial guarantee or obtain the variances they've requested. 3 would be to submit plans, construct the improvements for East Riverside, submit a financial guarantee or approve or get the variance as requested. There are some improvements to sewer that needs to be done, so that is condition 4. And then on condition 5, it's just a clerical thing. They did not write the right-of-way for South Bell Street, so they'll need to notate that on the plans. The final note on here is that fire hydrants must be placed within 600 feet. So as they look to build these homes, they'll have to look at those the fire hydrant requirements and see if they need to do anything else. So that is the end of staff's presentation. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Great. We're going to open it for public comment.
Good afternoon, Erica Carter with Carter Fentress Engineering. I first want to say thank you to Hillary and the staff. Not on just this one, on all of them. I know they've been working very diligently the past 2 weeks to get these on the agenda. I have no issue with any of the presentation, so I ask that you approve as presented.
Thank you, Erica. Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and open up for the commission.
This one seems pretty cut and dry compared to the rest of them. So
Yes.
I'll go ahead and vote for approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye with a show of your hand. Any opposed?
I show 5-0 on that one.
Thank you for one easy one today, Hillary.
Somehow I got the easy one, so hopefully these next couple are going to fly by. So
are they yours also?
Yes.
Okay, we'll expect easy. Thank you. Item 11 is second replat of Block 12, Colonial Heights Edition. A request for approval of the second replat of Block 12, Colonial Heights Edition, being 0.282 acres located east of Mark Street and east 25th and a half, and a variance from section 10.3.8.2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a minimum paving width of 36 foot in lieu of the required 40 foot or 36 foot with a 4-foot sidewalk from Mark Street and Urban Local Street.
Okay, I'll share my screen once again and we'll get going on this one. So this one is second replat in Block 12 of Colonial Heights. Oh, I'm sorry. Trying to move that out of the way. Is a replat of 0.282 acres. We're at 2514 Mark Street. So you can kind of see it's in the middle. The street right in front of it is actually 25 and a half street. So the current zoning is RS1. The neighborhood is the future land use. Again, we are in SMD number 4, Lucy Gonzalez's neighborhood in the Reagan neighborhood. So this is a proposed final plat. They're actually creating 2 lots here. It's a good infill project. They are requesting a variance to maintain 36-foot paving width with existing curb and gutter on Marks. This plat does conform. It is RS1 zoning, which is consistent with the neighborhood future land use. and it's a continuation of the existing development. The plat does provide for orderly, safe, and efficient development of the city and streets that are safe and convenient and functional circulation. So again, we are recommending approval in the Chapter 10 variance. The current road meets the needs of the area. We're only adding 2 new homes, so that will not significantly increase traffic. The streets are within a fully developed area and maintain the same widths adjacent to the plat. The streets serve the area and currently have curb and gutters, so 2 homes will not create strain on the streets. And the width is sufficient and pose no safety risk. So this is just, again, an image of the area. As you can see, the street looks like it's been overlaid here recently. You got good curb and gutter. The left-hand photo, your subject property is actually on the right of the left-hand photo. On the right side, it's to the left. So you can see, I even have the little city car parked there, but significant paving width there. So staff is recommending approval of the second replat of Block 12 Colonial Heights Edition and approval of the variance request from 10382 to maintain 36-foot paving width from Marks, subject to 3 conditions. So a copy of the tax cert, improve Marks, submit a financial guarantee, or get the variance. They have requested the variance, and then install water and sewer service lines to each lot. So I will stop sharing with that. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Hillary. We're going to open it for public comment, please.
Russell with SKG, we would just be happy to answer any questions and ask your approval of the plat and variance as requested.
Thank you, Russell. Any questions for Mr. Gully? Okay, any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment and open it to the commissioners.
Again, pretty cut and dry on this one as well. So I'll vote to approve as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Any opposing?
So 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move to M, replat of lots 6A, 6B, and 6C, Block 1, revised Claremore Heights Edition. A request for approval of a replat of lots 6A, 6B, and 6C, Block 1, revised Claremore Heights Edition being 0.383 acres, located northwest of West Beauregard Avenue and Moritz Circle, and a variance from section 10.3.8.2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a minimum paving width of 36 foot in lieu of the required 40 foot or 36 foot with a 4-foot sidewalk for West Beauregard Avenue, an urban local street.
Okay, this is mine as well. So we're going to go through this one hopefully relatively quickly. This is lots 6A, 6B, and 6C, Block 1, revised Claremore Heights Edition. We're looking at a replat of 0.383 acres. The current addresses are 73 through 77 Moritz Circle. This is zoned RM1 with the future land use of neighborhood SMD number 5, Lane Carter, in the ASU College Hills neighborhood. So they're looking at doing 4 townhome lots. So they may look skinny to you, but that is on purpose. They're also requesting a variance to maintain 36-foot wide paving width with curb and gutter on West Beauregard. Just so that you're aware, Moritz Circle is currently 36 as well, but the applicant has agreed to do sidewalks in front of their townhomes. So we are appreciative of that. So this is RM1 zoning, which is consistent with the neighborhood future land use. The development will act as a transition from the commercial, which if you kind of put this in perspective, HEB is to the east, and that has a little bit of commercial development there, and the RS1 residential to the west. This will provide for orderly, safe, and efficient development and streets that ensure safe and convenient functional pedestrian and vehicular circulation. So again, Moritz Circle is actually 36 foot wide, but they're going to put a sidewalk on that one. So this is strictly for West Beauregard. Again, the street meets the needs of the area. We're adding 4 new homes, which should not increase the traffic significantly. They are within a fully developed area and the same widths. The streets serve the area. Again, 4 new homes will not create significant amount of new traffic. and the width does not pose a safety risk. So these are just some pictures I took of West Beauregard there. You can see it's a very nice road, got curb and gutter. The picture on the right is actually the subject property, and you can see the homes directly adjacent. So staff is recommending approval of the replat of lots 6A, 6B, 6C, and in block 1 of the revised Claremore Heights edition, and approval of the variance from chapter 103A2 to maintain a 36-foot wide pavement width for West Beauregard, subject to 3 conditions. We need a copy of the tax certificate. We need to improve Moritz Circle, financial guarantee, or submit a variance. Again, they have agreed to do the sidewalk, which is a great asset for this area, and then submit the improvements for West Beauregard, financial guarantee, or a variance, and they have asked for a variance on West Beauregard. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and ask for questions.
Henry, could you please clarify how we need to do the motion? Because the variance would be for Beauregard, but for Moritz.
Moritz is going to be improved to city standard, because with the sidewalk, that's part of the 10382 city standard. So it will be 36 foot with a 4-foot sidewalk.
So can that one be deferred for the sidewalk to the building permitting stage? As we've done in the past for residential?
You know, I have not. That was not even a thought because it was part of the street standard. Mitchell, do you have any concern with deferring this sidewalk to the building permit phase?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we would probably just make a note on the plat that the sidewalks to bring the street into compliance would be deferred to the building permit phase. I'm okay with that. I think that would work.
Thank you. Any other questions of Hillary? Okay, we're going to close, or we're going to open rather, the public comment. Anyone wishing to speak?
Russell with SKG just would request your approval of the plats as presented and as discussed on deferring sidewalk improvements for Moritz.
Okay, thank you, Russell. Any further public comments? Seeing none, we'll open it for the commission.
Again, pretty cut and dry on this one. So I'll approve the plat as presented, along with deferring the sidewalks to the building permit stage, as Russell mentioned.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And also including that the sidewalks being built would be deferred to building permit phase. All those in favor say aye with a show of hands. Any opposed?
So 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're finishing plats. We're going to have homes in San Angelo soon, so that'll be great. We're going to go to rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. The first one is A, Z20-20, 1622 Lafayette Street, a request for approval of a rezoning from the single-family residence RS1 zoning district to the general commercial CG zoning district, being 0.32 acres located at 1622 Lafayette Street and 4 lots directly west, being 0.30 acres in the 1600 block of Lafayette Street.
Good morning, Shelley, Pascal. Good afternoon. Can y'all see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Just to kind of place you, this will be the stripes on Houston, Hart, and Bell Street. These properties are directly east of that property. They are currently vacant. The red outline 4 lots are actually applied by the applicant. The 4 in blue, it's 2 different property owners, and this is city initiated to rezone those also. We sent them letters by certified mail for these 2 property owners. This is within District 4, Lucy Gonzalez, and the neighborhood is Paul Ann. And we are proposing to rezone from RS1 to CG. As you can see, it is RS1, and in the future land use, it is proposed to be commercial. This is the subject property on the left-hand side. As you can see, the stripes is in the rear of the property. This is just to give you a look at the homes that are directly north of the subject property. And this is looking east of the subject property across Murray Street. I did send out 15 notifications. I did not receive any in favor nor opposition. We do believe it's compatible with the plans and policies. The proposed general commercial is consistent with the commercial and the future land use. One of the goals is to create single use centers centering around the large retail and office clusters that are visible from major frontage roads, which Houston Heart is a large street in our town. And the subject property directly fronts onto this access road of the loop. We do believe that it's consistent with the zoning ordinance. The combined lots does exceed the 6,000 square feet, which is required for general commercial. And currently the property is vacant, and it would allow new development to come in. They would have to meet the standards of that zoning ordinance, which is both, the setbacks and regulations regarding abutting a residential use. It is compatible with the surrounding area. This area is both commercial and residential, so it would extend the development pattern for this area. These properties have been zoned residential since before the construction of Houston Heart Expressway. Before the construction of that freeway, this area could have been suitable for residential. However, since the addition of that freeway, it does kind of change the character of these properties and the surrounding properties. And the rezoning would be consistent with the future land use in the existing adjacent mixed use in the area. We do not anticipate any impacts on the natural environment. However, the impacts that could potentially happen during development of any kind of commercial property or building or structure. We do believe that a rezoning to CG will allow more commercial development, which San Angelo needs. And as I stated, the development pattern in this area is both commercial and residential, and some vacant properties that could be developed either way in this area. Approving this rezoning will be consistent with the development patterns. City staff, we are recommending approval from the single family residential zoning district to the general commercial zoning district. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Shelley. We're going to open this to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak? And we're going to close public comment and open it up to the commission.
I move to approve as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor, if you'll raise your hand. Any opposed with same sign?
5-0.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to right-of-way abandonments. City Council has final authority for approval of right-of-way abandonments. Street right-of-way abandonment, South College Hills, Valleyview Boulevard. A request to approve the abandonment of approximately 218 square feet, which is 0.005 acre of a street of way out of the southwest corner of the South College Hills Boulevard and Valleyview Boulevard intersection. It's kind of tricky to read. For me.
Thank you, Vice Chair Jackson and Planning Commissioners. I'll try to hustle through this. I know we appreciate everybody's patience today. We've had a lot of cases. So this is a follow-up to the Southland Hills preliminary and final plat you all just looked at. In order for that plat to go forward, they wanted to acquire this corner of right-of-way, and basically that would be merged into that last lot, thereby allowing a 60-foot right-of-way. So that would be against that decision that we had looked at, or staff's position of having the 80 feet. So this would basically be to allow them to acquire the additional land for that one lot on the corner. So it's 218 square feet. We talked about the reason, District 1, Bonham neighborhood. Future land uses neighborhood, zoning's RM1. So this is the corner over here to be abandoned. This is the southwest corner of College Hills and Valleyview. And as you go further to the east, this is where the plats will be. This is Valleyview east of College Hills Boulevard. This is a good picture of it here, a zoom in of that plat, the 218 square feet. So this would be basically acquired and merged into lot 27, and then thereby narrowing the right of way to 60 feet. Staff is against this to be consistent with the plat. We want the 80 feet of right of way for the reasons operations Mr. Kelton had mentioned. So therefore we would recommend denial as submitted based on that. We did circulate all relevant municipal departments, public and private utility companies. We didn't receive any objections from those utility companies. Again, the only issue is the fact that we wanted Valleyview to stay 80 feet. And again, same reasons. I won't go over this. Operations and engineering recommended the 80 feet for those reasons. Traffic patterns, Valleyview Boulevard is already 80 feet wide to the west and east. There's no utilities in the right of way, but again, the right of way itself is the issue. And that could lead to a potential community negative impact without acquiring the right of way. Because again, we've got that irregular right of way of 60 feet when everything to the west and east is 80. We believe there'd be a greater public benefit by having that additional right of way. So staff recommends denial of the street right of way abandonment of 218 square feet of street right of way out of the southwest corner of South College Hills Boulevard and Valleyview Boulevard. And that concludes the presentation.
Well, and I think to make a clarification, we wrote this recommendation and staff report when staff is still recommending the 80. So I still think that staff in general is supportive of the 80 feet, but now it's up to you. You've already allowed the plat at 60. This would be a portion of that. So that's for your discussion beyond this point.
Okay, thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Hillary. That I was going to bring that up, that has been approved to be the 60-foot right of way. We're going to open it now for public comment.
All right, this is Erica Carter with Carter Centris Engineering. Again, you guys approved the 60-foot right of way in lieu of the 80-foot. This is kind of a cleanup in a transitional area. Blake, do you have any comment?
No, just ask for approval.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Erica and Blake. Any further public comment?
And if you all, again, your decision either way, if you all do decide to approve, we do have conditions.
Okay, did you read the conditions?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Can you go ahead and share your screen and share those conditions just in case they do decide to approve it?
Thank you, Jeff.
Sure. So one is and this is standard, abandoning that portion into the subdivision plat, which is the subdivision plat. So they would meet that requirement based on the approval of Southland Hills, section 22. Number two is per the schedule of fees and charges, pay the assessment formula for the abandoned right of way. Again, that's standard. And then third, also standard, approval of the associated plat and payment. And then if the plat is approved, issuance and recordation of a quitclaim deed from the city's real estate division conveying the city's interest in the entirety of the street. So again, if the plat gets approved, city would file that quitclaim deed, and then they would own that property, and then they can record the plat.
Right. Thank you, Jeff. Is there any further public comment?
Blake, do you have any issue with those conditions?
No, it's all pretty standard of getting title back to the land so that you can plat it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you,
Blake and Jeff. Okay, with no further public comment, we'll close it to public comment, open it up to the commission.
Okay, just so we can discuss this. So we've already approved the 60-foot on the previous agenda notes. So basically, with that being said, in my opinion, it makes sense to go ahead and approve this as presented with the 3 conditions of approval that Jeff just mentioned.
Okay, we have a motion to
Second.
accept as presented and a second.
I want to clarify something real quick. When it was presented, we recommended denial. So
Okay, we don't want to, okay.
one clarification, you're
Brittany, I don't think
approval.
you mean that.
Yes,
No, I'm
approval with 3 conditions.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Ryan? Okay, I think you were the second. I just wanted to make sure that, yeah, we were thinking a different way. So all those in favor of approving the street right-of-way abandonment, raise your hand. Any opposed raise your hand.
So 5-0.
Okay, 5-0. I keep having one more page.
This is the last page officially.
Okay. So we have discussion items, which is A, Lucky Lou annexation, discussion on a proposed annexation being 8.916 acres located between Bentwood Drive and Old Stone Drive, south of West Loop 306.
Excuse me, Hillary?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah, no.
Sorry to interrupt. Lucky Lou zoning, is that not on this one?
No, ma'am.
Or do we have?
Yeah, it'll come next month. We have it. We have a timeline. Yes. No, I'm sorry. All we're
that's okay.
All we're gonna do now is just show them the possible. So there's actually only a little over an acre that is proposed to come into the city. Again, this goes to city council. We always just like to give you guys a heads up on what's coming, so that way you're aware of it. So part of this, and I think Sherry's trying to find her slides, but part of this proposed plat would be outside the city limit. Oh, there it goes. Okay, Sherry, you want to continue?
We can't hear you, Sherry.
I can do it. It's okay, Sherry. It's all right. So if you can see, there's a red line that goes through the middle of her orange outline here. So it's approximately, I think it's a little over an acre. So there will be an item going before city council for annexation of that parcel right there. They're not proposing to annex the rest of it in, just that little triangle. So again, it's just simply to give the planning commission a heads up of what will be going to council. You've already seen the preliminary and the final plat. Again, Erica alluded to, you will see a rezoning at your January meeting. So this annexation will go to city council for accepting of the petition tomorrow, and then it will go to first reading of the ordinance for annexation in February. Second reading will be the end of March to fall in line with the rezoning. So we have a timeline. So by the end of March, we will have this property hopefully annexed and rezoned to general commercial. So if anyone has any questions on that, please let us know.
It's actually 1.9 acres.
Thank you. I couldn't
Just so
remember the
you're
exact. Yeah, I couldn't remember the exact acreage.
Yeah.
Okay, so just under 2. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, girls, ladies. Any questions or discussion on this from the commission? Okay. Can we go back to, thank you. All I can see is Brittany, which is great, but that's the only person I can see. Next, we have the director's report.
Yeah, just real briefly, just like a broken record, we're waiting to hear on going back to in-person meetings. It's kind of a month-to-month decision. If you all have thoughts and preferences, I know we have some boards and commissions that talked about going back in person, and the board members themselves said, no, we don't feel ready yet. And so if you all, any of you have concerns, let us know privately. If you have concerns about going back in person, I don't know that we're looking at that anytime soon, but it could be as soon as next month, or it might be a few months out. But we'll keep you in the loop as we get closer to each month's meeting, if it looks like it'll be Zoom again or in person. I'll also add that we've got a few ordinance cleanup items. We've kind of been waiting until we can meet in person to present some of those. But depending on how long this lasts, we may bring a few of those fairly straightforward ones back to you all at an upcoming meeting, even if it's not in person. But just wanted to let you know that we are working on some other things. We'll probably hold those until lighter agendas. So if we have an agenda like today, we try not to add extra things to it. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, and Vice Chairman, if you'll allow me one more minute, I want to add Erica said. I want to thank my staff. I mean, I know you guys put in the time today to be here, and I appreciate all that, but there's been a lot going on, as you can see by the agenda. So my staff has done a lot to help us get ready for this, and I appreciate them. I know it's getting close to Christmas, and we want to, get through this, but I appreciate them and their hard work through this to get to this point. So thank you for that.
We're very lucky that we have the great planning staff that we have. They do an awesome job.
Yes.
We appreciate y'all.
The additional information you all provided.
Yes. Okay, future meeting agenda and announcements. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is tentatively scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, January 25th, 2021.
And again, just so everybody understands, that is not the third Monday because of the Martin Luther King holiday. So be aware that is the fourth Monday in January.
Okay, fourth Monday, because I would be the one that calls you later and said, what's up? Okay, thank you. Okay, looking for possible motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to say, wish everybody a Merry Christmas and see you next year, but we'll vote on that adjournment. All in favor, raise your hand.